you're looking after your animals, let them in. Don't make them stay out there. Make sure they got water. Make sure you are drinking a whole bunch of water. You must keep the electrolytes in there. Drink Gatorade, whatever it may be, because it is hot as the dickens out there. There is no question. Yeah, we talk about equipment and new strength and the way golfers come up. Today, the Memorial is going on. Tiger started off birdie 2 of the first 3 holes. Now he's back to even. But today, the most amazing thing on hole number 1, Bryson DeChambeau, as Brett likes to call beefcakes now, Bryson DeChambeau gets on the tee box and aims at a point that no one has ever seen a player aim on that first tee in competition ever before. And Bryson DeChambeau hit a 423-yard drive today. That's the most that I've ever heard of in a PGA event. I know there are long drive guys out there. We've had a couple of guys. There's a couple in Memphis that do well. We've had them on. I think they've hit them 460 or so. But in competition on the PGA Tour, 423 yards. He did, by the way, birdie the hole. And he's 1 over for the day. It is absolutely amazing how far they can hit a ball with their nutrition now, their workout regimens, and with the way the equipment is. We got plenty to talk about today. We got a big show lined up for you. We have a team. I can actually criticize a local team because 901 FC was not ready to play last night. I don't know what Tim Mulqueen's team was thinking about. We got defensive problems in the back. Tim Howard didn't exactly look like the guy that was the face of the U.S. national men's team for many, many, many years. And so we will be all over the place today. We start by going down the road a little bit to the avenues of the Americas in Forest City. Brett Norsworthy standing by. How are you today? How are you coping with the heat, my friend?
Doing just fine, Dave. And I don't know what was more amazing, the Bryson DeChambeau drive or the Dustin Johnson 180-yard pitching wedge.
Oh, I didn't even hear about that one. 180-yard pitching wedge. All right. So seriously, what do you think? The average guy for 180 yards. I know what I use. I use a 5 hybrid for a 180-yard shot. A 5 hybrid. Really good players might use a 5 iron.
How far do you hit a pitching? How far do you hit a pitching wedge?
I hit a pitching wedge 115 to 120 in that range.
Okay.
Drew's making faces. Drew, what do you hit a pitching wedge?
A strong full swing at a pitching wedge, I can probably hit it about 135, 140.
Well, what would your 180 club be?
180, I would be swinging 7 or 6.
Wow.
Depending on
strong
where I'm at and wind and whatnot.
Big strong man.
Well,
I can't finesse shoot. I've got to swing out of my shoes. I've got to grip it and rip it like John Daly does every shot. I can't finesse.
And that's what that's who Bryson DeChambeau is.
Yeah.
He is John Daly with a functional brain.
Well, he's changed his whole sort of approach when he beefed up to do that because he thinks he can. You don't have to, as long as you can repeat it in the system that he's got with the length of club that he's got. He can hit it as hard as he wants. He does not have to sort of be in what I like to call a particular rhythm where you're swinging at about 85%. It's crazy stuff. But a 180-yard pitching wedge, my
Dustin
goodness.
Johnson. It's unreal, isn't it?
It is.
And the wind blew at the Memorial today, but you almost felt like Jack Nicklaus was conspiring with the golf gods of ain't no 25 under going to win my tournament.
Well, he did want to make it tougher. So the leader in the clubhouse now, well, he's not in the clubhouse. He's just taken over. Brandon Steele was the leader in the clubhouse. He shot 4 under. But Gary Woodland today, 5 under. Who had Lucas Glover? Lucas Glover's 4 under.
John Gowen did.
Holes. John Gowen does. That's right. As his
shock.
His shock, yeah. Wow. My shock today. Not bad. Jordan Spieth,
good
2 under.
Good round for him, and good pick by you. And he definitely was above. He's 61, and that's the threshold. That's fine. 3-time major winner, Drew. It means that much to Dave, doesn't it?
It really does. And
Well-
I'm sitting over here. I'm already done for the week. I'm out.
He's not out yet, but did you see what Xander Schauffele shot today?
Drew's out.
6 over.
And Troy Merritt's 3 over. So I'm pretty much done.
Yeah, Drew's out. But for Jordan Spieth, a good pick by you, Dave, because he has the comfortability at that course, and it's not normally a bomber's paradise. It takes a little more precision, although it's not tight either. I mean, you can let one fly, but Jordan Spieth needs some confidence. He usually has about one good round a week. We'll see if this was the best one or if he can play better. But it's Thursday mostly.
Yeah. Did you watch any of 901 FC? I mean, you had your choice last night. You had UFC fights on. You had 901 FC on. And you had NASCAR on with their All-Star.
I watched none of the three.
None of the three.
I watched none of the three.
Wow.
No.
Well, I watched 901 FC, and I was very disappointed. A guy that they got last year. I thought it was a brilliant.
Did you lose sleep over it, Dave?
acquisition. No, I didn't.
How disappointed were you?
You know what? It's
On
funny
a scale
that
of
you
going
should
to
say
on a scale of the worst probably ever for your head to hit the pillow had to be in San Antonio
Oh, yeah.
in '08.
Oh, yeah.
Where did last night in 901 dropping that game really rank?
Well, I did not sleep well last night, and so now I have to reponder that prospect and think maybe they were responsible for my bad sleeping pattern.
You lost sleep over the 901 football. Okay.
No, but I will say this.
Okay.
So Liam Doyle was a guy they got last year from Nashville. He's a big-bodied guy.
Oh, yeah.
And
I know all about him.
And he was terrific last year. Last night, whew, he had a bad outing. And the whole back line did. And poor Tim Howard, he's not what he was either, but I don't think it was that much on him. But that team was not ready to play last night, and they got pretty well demolished by a Birmingham team that I think is a rather average team. And they lost 3-0, and they're off to an 0-2 start. Here's what I did like in Bristol: they had 30,000. Now you seat 162. And I must confess I did not watch very much of that at all. I just gazed because I wanted to see what how they were going to space the crowd. And I guess there were some people together because they must have been family. However that worked. But I don't think there was any incidents or anything, and people behaved and went by protocols. So, maybe that is a positive. And Brett, I started thinking about this because I got bad news that we'll give during our top and not top. But the bubble in Orlando, have you noticed that we haven't had any really damaging COVID cases where we've had a couple of injuries. We've had a broken thumb to Rondo. We had De'Aaron Fox now with a sprained ankle. He may be out. Now, Zion Williamson did have to leave the bubble today because of what was termed a family emergency, medically involved. Now, they didn't say what it was. I mean, I don't know if a parent has COVID or if there's some real issue, but it was enough where he had to leave the bubble, which, by the way, is interesting. If he gets tested every day while he's gone, and I guess shows proof of that, when he comes back to the bubble, he has to quarantine for 4 days. If he does not take tests every day, he has to quarantine for 10 days. They start July 30th with their first game, which is basically
2 weeks from tonight.
2 weeks from tonight. So he would have time to come back, quarantine. But we don't know what the thing is. But the thing that I really started thinking about was, we had problems with COVID cases when they first arrived in their respective camps in their respective cities. But since they've gone to the bubble, I don't remember one case, knock on wood, and we still got 2 weeks, but I don't remember one case being reported of COVID happening inside the bubble. Any response to that?
No, I don't know of one either.
Yeah. So that is a good thing. That is a good start for everybody hoping that we get to do this thing in the NBA. So we're busy today. Rick Schaefer's going to join us from in Arkansas. He's I mean, I think it's fair to say, wouldn't you make him one of the major University of Arkansas historians?
Foremost, number one.
Yeah, yeah. He is always a ball to talk with. We'll find out.
Especially after the passing of Orville Henry. I would say Clay Henry, Orville's son, who is a very reputable and noted journalist in Northwest Arkansas, would be right up there with Rick. But Rick would be number one in my book.
Yep. We will talk with Keith Smith in that aforementioned bubble in Orlando. Well, he's not in the bubble, but he lives in Orlando. He writes for Yahoo.
Just on the outside of it.
Yeah. Russell Copeland. We haven't talked to him in a while. It'll be great to chat with Russell on the National Football League. Not such good news today there. 72 positive cases on NFL teams. That number through July the 10th. And, of course, they're trying to figure out with the union exactly what they will settle for when we really start to play games, and they don't want to play exhibition games. We'll get his thoughts on that. The University of Memphis Athletic Director Laird Veach, and we've got questions that we want to ask him as he and the American ponder what's going to go on. By the way, the American Athletic Commissioner put out a statement today, and it talking about protocol, and it's much in line with what the Power Five have put out in terms of testing, and they've got a whole set of protocol that they have put out. We may talk about that a little bit later. Baseball and Tim Doolin coming your way at 5:30, and, of course, at 5:50, we will have Crunch Time.
We will. And this portion of our show brought to you every day by Lexus of Memphis. You can call them at 901-362-8833. They're at 2600 Ridgeway and online at lexusofmemphis.com. Lexus of Memphis offering the Golden Opportunity sales event. Great offers on all 2020 models and always on special lease options. If you've ever thought I'd look great in a Lexus, well, guess what? Lexus of Memphis thinks you would look outstanding in one of their beautiful cars as well. And that's what they'll do for you. They'll get you in that beautiful car. Driving luxury and confidence, knowing that every new Lexus comes with complimentary first and second maintenance services. Stop by today at Lexus of Memphis at 2600 Ridgeway and put yourself in the driver's seat of an all-new 2020 flagship LS500, and you'll be looking and driving in style. Lexus of Memphis, the highest standards in the industry. When you purchase a Lexus, you get top-of-the-line engineering and design, and they make for the luxury driving experience. Online at lexusofmemphis.com, 901-362-8833. Experience amazing at Lexus of Memphis.
Top story of the day.
Well, this is another sort of tough day on the COVID front. In Shelby County, a lot of new cases, 466 new cases, 4 new fatalities. The county is working on and will finalize soon a tripwire plan. That is when the case numbers get to a certain level, they will be forced to close bars, restaurants, and gyms. So they're going to figure that number out and make it as such. And I know we've dealt a lot with death rates, and we all want this thing to go away. But according to the COVID tracking project at the Atlantic, the 7-day average for deaths per day has now jumped by more than 200 since July 6th. By the count there, states reported 855 deaths today, in line with the recent elevated numbers in mid-July. The deaths are not happening in unpredictable places. Rather, people are dying at higher rates where there are lots of COVID cases, like Florida, Arizona, Texas, California, as well as a host of smaller southern states that, in the Atlantic's view, all rushed to open up. In the state.
Did you see what the CDC director said he thought might have caused it?
What? I did not.
People traveling to Florida from other places.
Well, I'm guilty of doing that. But it was to, again, this was to visit parents that we wanted to be sure were doing well. In Arizona and Texas, they've started bringing in refrigerated trucks to act as morgues. So obviously this is not going as you would like. Even though I was amazed in
But
Birmingham.
the overall fatality rate is falling. It's at 3.84%, and on Monday at this time it was 4.2%.
Well, I'm just reading in those states it's way up, and the Atlantic from their COVID tracker is saying it is going up by more than 200 per day. Around the world,
Texas is at 1.22 fatality rate. Florida's 1.48. It was 1.52 on Monday.
Well, that's in contradictory to then what the Atlantic is reporting. The dashboard today, the United States, almost 3.7 million cases, 140,000 have passed away, 13,810,000 cases now, and we're getting close to 600,000 fatalities worldwide. 8 million, though, recovered, and we still are now at 154 vaccines.
Arkansas and Tennessee in a tie right now, both with 1.11% fatality rate. Mississippi 3.29.
Why do you think that their rate would be higher? I mean, that's
Because
triple.
they've had a lot more cases.
Mississippi?
They've had 12,458 cases, and Arkansas has had 10,000.
Yeah, but the state of Tennessee has fewer fatalities, and they've had at least 30%.
About 10,000 cases.
No, they've had more cases than Mississippi.
Yeah, Tennessee has had, it was cases per million. Tennessee's had 71,540 cases.
Right.
Mississippi has had about 40,000 cases.
Yeah. Your top story?
Urgent family matter for Zion. Sounds very serious, doesn't it? What a rookie year to forget for him. This could impact his return and the NBA's focus on him in his return. 2 weeks from today at 5:30 Central Time, the first national game, Pels versus Jazz. And that wasn't scheduled to watch Drew Holiday.
No.
That was scheduled to watch Zion Williamson in that game. If he gets back in time and they're a quick early exit from the bubble, that's not what the NBA was planning. Because he drew eyeballs. The best ratings they had all year was after his return.
Well, I mean, if you're a conspiracy theorist, there are some that say they concocted this whole deal with the 8 games, not just for the TV revenue, but they wanted Zion in the mix. And I really hope it's got to be serious or he wouldn't leave, right? I mean, and they say it's a medical emergency, family matter that he's leaving. I take them for their word, and so I really hope it's not anything that someone can't recover from. I really do. I would hope that the Grizzlies get to play him. You believe in the old axiom, you want to beat them at their best? Or if you knew that the Grizz could get in if he doesn't play, which would you rather have?
I'm really not worried about them. I'm worried about me. I'm worried about the Grizzlies. If the Grizzlies, if he doesn't play and they get in, then they get in. They did the work from October to March, and then afterwards, you field your team as you see fit.
Not top story of the day.
Well, it's really not a negative story. It's a cool story. There have been plenty of texters that have come with us talking about how Penny brought Musa Cisse from New York here, and that deal was done, and there's going to be NCAA scrutiny, which there probably will be. We find out today in a very good story done by the columnist for the Commercial Appeal, Mark Giannotto, the person that is responsible for bringing Musa Cisse to the United States and then later to Memphis is the head basketball coach at Lemoyne-Owen, William Anderson, whose family he lives with right now, who got involved with a program for young people in African countries that were looking for ways out and that showed athletic promise. And he brought him as an 8th grader. He was going to bring him to Memphis then, but when he went to New York, he got involved with a powerhouse high school there initially, and so the Andersons said, okay, he can stay there, and so he did for I guess 2 or 3 years, and then that agency contacted him again, and I don't know the reasoning behind this, but he was then brought to Memphis by the Andersons, and they wanted him to go to Lausanne because they wanted him to have a better education, and they felt that this was the place to nurture him while giving him an education. And so that's really how Moussa Cisse ended up in Memphis. It's the Lemoyne Owen coach, William Anderson, when he was an 8th grader, brought him to this country. It's a good story. Go read it.
My not top story, 72 NFL players have tested positive, and you had to really go down deep in the story, and even your reference to it earlier, you omitted the percentage of all that were represented by the test, all the ones that didn't test positive. That 72 players represent about 2.5% of those tested. Why can't we offer up the other side of the percentages? Why can't the story be 97.5% didn't test positive? That would be accurate, wouldn't it? It would be fair, wouldn't it? It would be responsible, wouldn't it? But instead, it sounds like we have to make it the end of time on all these stories. Tennessee fatality rate, 1.11. Why isn't it 9.89? Hadn't perished. In the United States, 3.80. Why isn't it 96.20? Hadn't been fatal. Never mind if you figured it of the whole population of the United States, which is 300 and some odd million, and then never mind if you extrapolated it, because we're so interconnected, everybody tells us, to worldwide population numbers.
But 2.5% still can spread the disease. That's what you worry about. That's what I worry about. And you see these cases continue to go up.
But what else do we get so negative and so alarmist about that are in 2.5%?
Brett, my belief is we try to contain it as best we can. When you see those numbers in those states and deaths going up in those states, when you see Shelby County devising a plan now that if these cases go up, and you had 466 new ones today, that we may have to close bars, restaurants, and gyms.
You just mentioned if and may. I'm talking the known. You're talking the unknown. I'm talking 2.5% positive, 97.5 was negative.
I'm talking about what the models are that the doctors are telling me.
And the models are the unknown.
For that caution.
The models are the unknown. The original model from the CDC was by July 1st, 2.2 million dead.
That was the original model. And science tells you have to keep changing. But these new models are telling us to be a bit alarmed. I mean, you do see that there are cases that have gone up since we've reopened up all these cities again.
And you do see the law of large numbers, don't you? You see the known, don't you?
I see the known. The cases are going up. Yes, I do.
Cases are going up, not fatalities.
Not in California, Texas, Arizona, according to the numbers that I just read.
I just read to you from the CDC, Dave.
Okay, and I'm reading to you. I just read
from the Atlantic.
From the Atlantic, and the doctors that monitor cases there in Florida, Arizona, Texas, and California. Those numbers have gone up since July 6th, more than 200.
Do you know what California's fatality rate is?
I have not looked of late. What
would you think it is?
I don't. What was it? I'm going to say it's probably in line with the 1.5 to 2% that you said before.
I hadn't referenced California before.
Oh, what is it in California?
2.06%.
Okay.
I would say California's done a really good job.
Well, all I know is that they've had up a jump since July 6th of more than 200 of their average before that, according to the COVID-19 tracker from the
California's
Atlanta.
death per million in population is 186. New York is 1671. Florida's 217. Texas is 125. Per million in population.
Mm-hmm. Well, my choice is to do the safe things and not have more cases.
I think we've been doing the safe things.
By the way, as long as cases go up, fatalities will go up eventually too. It will catch up.
That hadn't been the case, Dave.
According to
fatalities are going down.
According to most of these models that I see, that is an inevitability.
Again, Dave, the models are the unknown. I'm talking the known. I'm talking facts. I'm talking real numbers that are provable. You're talking something that might happen.
Well, I'm talking trends that I see with cases going up that makes me concerned. I understand.
The modeler said 2.2 million.
Okay. Well, I am a little.
What happened to that?
I'm a little more concerned
what happened to that?
Than you are.
What happened to 2.2 million?
Well, those initial models were wrong. Now they have more data. I think they're a little bit more spot on than they were back then. Back then it was brand new. Now they know more. That would be my answer to that.
4 months later, they've got it down that much.
4 months later, they know a lot more than they did 4 months ago. Yes, I say they have it a lot more down. That would be my contention. And we take this quick timeout. I'll tell you, we are sitting in the Family Leisure Studios. And I want to remind everybody, you can get a 2021 swimming pool right now at the 2020 price because you're getting in early, and they're just about out of pools now. So take advantage and get your spot for the first installation of 2021. By the way, patio furniture now 20 to 30% off. Play gyms are in stock. They would run out, they're back in. Beat the heat with an indoor game. You can get a table of ping pong table, air hockey table. You can get a slate pool table. Pool toys. Yeah, you want to get in when it's this hot. They've got toys and floats up to 30% off. That's I-40 and Wooden Road. That is Family Leisure. We take the time out. When we come back, we'll find out what's going on in Arkansas. Rick Schaefer from The Buzz statewide in Arkansas. We'll talk Razorbacks and more with Rick in just a minute.
Spend your lunch with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy on Sports 56 middays, delivered by FedEx. Weekdays from 10 to 1 on Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7.
You'll see the dedication in every single step. You'll see it in the smiles when smiles are hard to get. You'll see it in the little things that add up to success. The caring and passion are the things that we love best.
Wolf Chase Lemon Brace is your Mid-South provider for orthotics and prosthetics. They are an ABC accredited facility and their practitioners are ABC certified. At Wolf Chase Lemon Brace, their services include artificial limbs, legs and arms, braces of all kinds, and custom molded inserts. You can call them today at 901-507-7821 for their location on Highway 64 in between Germantown Parkway and Appling Road, or visit them at their new location in Jackson, Tennessee. That number is 731-660-5900, or visit them on the web at wolfchaseLemonBrace.com.
Dedicated our life to yours. Wolf Chase Lim and Brace.
At Jason's Deli, you can stuff yourself full of great deli food that's healthy, fresh, and best of all, it's not expensive. Jason's Deli is all about choice. Whether you're looking for a gluten-free menu, vegetarian sandwiches, healthy kids' meals, or if you'd like to invent your sandwich via the build-your-own selections, Jason's Deli has you covered. And they only use fresh, wholesome ingredients. Choose from the club and specialty sandwiches, paninis, wraps, soups, salads, pastas, and much more. I love the cleanliness in the restaurant, the hospitality,
And of course, the cost. They have a huge salad bar and great soups, including Southwest chicken chili, fire roasted tortilla, organic vegetable, tomato basil, and many, many more. And if you're planning an event, their catering department is fantastic and can handle any size party. Go check out Jason's Deli's 4 locations. On Ridgeway in the Park Place Center, that's my favorite, on Germantown Parkway in Cordova, at Poplar and Highland, and on Goodman Road in Olive Branch.
You know what's not healthy? Stressing about work. Or maybe you're out of work. Stop. Hit reset. You can start a new life as an IT pro in as little as 4 months from the comfort of your own home, even if you have zero computer experience. Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation today. Live online classes meet just twice a week. An emergency relief grant of up to $3,500 is available to those who qualify. It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu.
For 95 years, Saya LTL Freight has hit the road to deliver the goods that keep businesses and communities moving. Now, in this uncertain time, we won't stop going that extra mile, because at the end of the day, we are all in this together for the long haul. Saya LTL Freight, driving stability, safety, support, and strength. Visit Saya.com. That's SAIA.com.
Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
We like to party.
Back in as we cruise through our first hour of this hot Thursday. By the way, the G League has struck again the number one prospect of 2021. Jonathan Kuminga has chosen to go G League, that elite team that we saw Jalen Green go to. Kuminga is going the same way. He is choosing to go this developmental league elite thing for $500,000 over college. I guess you can't blame him. The team that most likely was going to get him was Texas Tech. So Memphis lost to the G League on Jalen Green, and now poor Texas Tech, they lose out, it looks like, to a player who's really going to be terrific. The number one guy from not this year's but next year's class.
They will be almost the 31st best team in the NBA next year, that select G League team. Joining us now to talk basketball as well is a great offseason for Coach Musselman and also the Arkansas football scene, where today, breaking news as we speak, Hunter Yurchek being quoted that the ACC, Big 12, and SEC are all on the same page to stay patient with scheduling for football in the fall. To talk about it with us, longtime Arkansas SID, Arkansas historian, and Arkansas Talk Radio host in the afternoon on The Buzz, heard statewide across the state of Arkansas on The Buzz. Rick Schaefer joins us now. Good afternoon, Rick Schaefer. How are you?
Hey, Dave. You know, it doesn't take 3 positives to say anything about me, but anyway, thank you very much. And, yeah, that is interesting, and I'm glad the SEC and the ACC and the Big 12 are on that track. The Big 10, I think, might have bailed a little bit early, but that's okay. And the Pac-12, no non-conference games for either one of those two. You just have to hang in there. We don't know what's going to happen. You know, I heard someone say today that if everybody in America, now there's no guarantee on this, but if everybody in America practiced safe practices, wore face coverings, stayed socially distanced for 4 weeks, this could be over. Now, that's not 100%, but it's a possibility. What if that happened? Yeah. Today is July the 16th.
Be great.
Yeah,
opening weekend is Nevada 5th or September 5th. You could play football and everybody could play, right?
I read it as 6 weeks, and I'm certainly willing to do 2 more weeks. I'm practicing that right now.
Too.
So
yeah, me too. Yeah.
I've been practicing for 6 weeks. In fact, Rick, I was practicing it in March, and I wore gloves and a mask back in March, and Dave and Drew laughed me out of the building for doing it.
I think a lot of people, when it first happened, didn't take it too seriously, and I'll confess I was one of those. But now you just have to say, okay, whether we're vulnerable or not, just do it for the benefit of others, and do that for a while, and let's see if it works. We don't know anything else. Let's see if that works. If 4 to 6 weeks is what it takes, and all of a sudden it's gone, I'm for that.
Me too.
In the meantime, you guys have probably talked about that picture from the 1918 Georgia Tech game. You know, it was floating around.
Yep.
100 years ago, everybody's wearing a mask there. Right. Excuse me, and they're shoulder to shoulder. So it's not like they were socially spacing. Now, I pointed that out on Drive Time Sports, and somebody immediately called and said, "Yeah, but they're all dead." Well, yeah, the game was 100 years ago. That's a little humor there.
They were all wearing coats and ties too.
Yeah,
and top hats.
Except for the military, there was a few military people in there, but you're right. Yeah, amazing. So I don't know how it's going to work. I hope we will see fans in the stands. Baseball starts next Thursday. They're going to start without fans, but wouldn't it be great if sometime in August they started allowing, if it's 10% or 15 or 20% capacity to come in? That would be a great signal for football.
Well, you know, I was amazed yesterday. We had 30,000 at a NASCAR race, and last night at the 901 FC game in Birmingham, Alabama. I don't know what the total crowd was, but there was a decent amount of folks that came into the game and socially were distant. And we may get that here on July the 25th. The health department is weighing the options now that they have before them that we would have a crowd in Memphis for the USL soccer team 901 FC. So Great. We shall see. I keep reading that if we do get back, and let's all hope we do, but if we do get back for the SEC, that they're going to come out and say we're going to play 10 games, 8 conference, 2 new non-conference, as opposed to what the Big Ten is doing, which I believe is going to be all conference games, and I think they want to do 10 as well. Give me your sense of what you're hearing in in Arkansas in regards to that.
Dave, at this point, it's nothing's been canceled. Nothing's been changed. At this point, if you played 10 games and 2 of them were non-conference, obviously, Arkansas fans would be very much hopeful that Notre Dame would be one of them. You know, this happens at a strange time. Arkansas has never played Notre Dame. Had Arkansas beaten Texas in the big shootout, they would have played Notre Dame for the national championship in the Cotton Bowl, but they didn't. And so they've never played Notre Dame in football, so they scheduled this home and home, and the game in Fayetteville is not until 2025, so that's a 5-year wait. And I cannot tell you how many people have told me, man, if I go to one road game my whole life, I want to go to that one. So I don't know how they're going to get that many tickets, but from what I understand, if that game is played, the stadium will be half full at best, and there won't be any Arkansas fans there. So I think but you'd still like to play that game. If you play, Louisiana Monroe's on the schedule, they're very close, they could bust. The other 2 schools that are on the schedule, Nevada and Charleston Southern, would have a hard time with long flights if that was an issue at that point. But so if you played 2, and I know there are people in Arkansas saying, maybe it's time for Arkansas to play Arkansas State. Arkansas State has already had 2 games canceled this year, so they're down to 10. So I don't know if that would be a likelihood or a possibility, but wouldn't it be something if a virus outbreak caused that game to finally be played?
And, Rick, the Arkansas policy has been relaxed with playing in-state teams, hasn't it? And they're now playing within the same University of Arkansas system teams, aren't they?
Yeah, and they're going to, and they've opened it up to play Arkansas State too. And so I think you're going to see that in baseball next spring, provided there's baseball. And I think it'll happen in other sports soon. Now, football, from what we've been told, is scheduled for the next 6 years. So unless something like this would cause an opening to occur, Arkansas and Arkansas State, I don't know if they're in discussions or not, but it would be at least 7 years from now before they could play. But at any rate, there have been some crazy things happen because of this virus, so we'll see.
Well, Arkansas State football would be the craziest thing in this region that would occur from that because, that is something I know Arkansas State would have loved to have had for many, many, many years, and Arkansas, their policy was not to do that. Do we know anything? You mentioned 50% capacity in South Bend, and we're just sheerly speculating here. But do you believe that those are the kinds of numbers that we might see if the SEC or college football as a whole decides that we can have fans?
Well, I think it's possible. I will tell you this. I go to the largest Protestant church in Arkansas, and we've been open for 6 weeks. And it's limited, but when you go in there, let's say if if you and your wife go, you sit down next to each other, and then there's 3 seats between you and the next people. And then if it's a family of 4, that's fine. If it's one person, there's 3 seats between every grouping. I could see that happening in a football stadium. Now, for a school like Arkansas, let's face it, the program's been down. They've won 4 games the last 2 years, but they have currently sold 31,000 season tickets. Okay, add about 5,000 students that you let in. That's 36,000 in a stadium that holds 74,000. That's a little less than half capacity. I think you could do the same thing. Let's say you got a family of 4 with season tickets. You sit together. Now there's 2 or 3 seats between you and the next person. So obviously, season ticket holders would not all be sitting in their normal seats.
Right.
But I think they could get them in. And, of course, you've got suites and other luxury areas that you could utilize. So for a school like Arkansas, I think that's very possible. What does Alabama do? What does Clemson do? What do those schools do? Or LSU, where out of 100,000 seats, probably most of them are season ticket holders or students. I don't know. You know, they might have to go on a rotation system of where if you play 7 home games, half of your season ticket holders get 4 games, half of them get 3, or it's 3 and 3, and you have a lottery for the last one. I don't know how they could do that, but I do think that that's possible. And again, particularly as you look back, I know it's 1918, it's 100 years ago. They're shoulder to shoulder in that picture,
right?
And I gotta believe that you'd have to wear masks. Definitely would have to wear masks. Definitely have to be socially distanced. Now the question is, your team scores. Do you lower your mask and everybody yells? What if you're calling the Hogs and you're slobbering while you do it? I mean, is that something that's okay? What about concession stands? What about bathrooms? I mean, there are a lot of questions to ask, but smarter people than me are working on that, and I do think it's a strong possibility.
Well, I just did the math. What they did in Bristol last night was 30,000 in a 162,000 seat stadium. That comes to 18.5%.
Yeah.
So let's say you think you can do it safely at 20%.
Okay. Well, 20%. Yeah. Now you're talking about, say, 20% of 74,000 would be slightly less than 15,000.
Right.
So you might have to do it just like I was talking with Alabama. You go half and half. You know, the shame of it is this year for Arkansas, it's the best home schedule they've had since being in the SEC. They've got Alabama,
and a first-year coach,
LSU, Tennessee, and Ole Miss all at home.
Wow.
You know, with a first-year coach, so you got some enthusiasm back. All those games at home this year could have sold out probably at least 3 of those games. And now, you know, you're going to be lucky if, as you say, Dave, it could be 15% or it could be 20% or it could be whatever you were able to get in there.
Right.
And Rick, the pandemic is the saddest thing that maybe has ever hit our country. But in normal times, this would be our run up to really being enthusiastic for college football starting. Today would have been the last day of SEC media days, and it's always tough for a first year coach. But he's got the value of being 0-0, and the fans really respond to that in the summertime. For Sam Pittman, if they get to football, he's got a quarterback. He's got a tailback. He's got a wide receiver. He's got a tight end. And his bailiwick is offensive line. The defense would have to be better under Barry Odom than it was under John Chavis. It really blunted the air of good feeling around a first-year coach for him.
Maybe. I think, Brett, the good feeling is still there. The question is, when are they going to play? I think a lot of people are excited that Sam Pittman came back. I mean, who in the world would have hired a coach that had never been a coordinator except Arkansas hiring Sam Pittman? And why was that acceptable? It was acceptable because when he was here with Brett Bielema, Arkansas's offensive lines were great. They weren't good, they were great. And he was an amazing recruiter. And so it's interesting that as you're looking at who's going to be the next Arkansas coach, his name popped up early, but I'm not sure how seriously people took it. And really, Hunter Yurachek, I'm sure he had talked to several people before finally somebody convinced him, you got to talk to this guy. He did, was convinced that because of Sam's passion for Arkansas and passion for coaching in the SEC. And so I think there's a real feel-good there. Now, outside of the state of Arkansas, people would look and say, there's a first-year coach that's never even been a coordinator. Let's see, they'll be lucky to win more than 2 like they did last year. Well, in Arkansas, people don't feel that way. So I think it can be a better year. Yes, the offense should be improved. I hesitate to say the defense could be worse because I've said that year after year after year, and it hadn't been very good lately. So, yes, I think Dave Odom will make not Dave Odom. Dave Odom's another guy, but yeah, that's
Rick,
right.
we used to do it all the time.
Yeah.
We would
I know.
no, it's Barry Odom. We used to call
Barry
him Dave
Odom,
Odom. We called him Lamar
He's
Odom, and finally we
Okay.
started calling Barry Lamar Dave Odom.
There you go. There's too many Odoms. You're right. But Barry Odom, he is a great defensive coach, and probably under normal circumstances would have been retained at Missouri. I mean, they beat Arkansas in the last game, qualified for a bowl. But I'm telling you, he is a great addition to this staff. So yeah, there's excitement for the staff, excitement for you got players. Felipe Franks transfers in. He's a quarterback who had success at Florida. We got terrific. There's some terrific wide receivers on this team, and also the other promise when you're saying defense. Man, they've got some 4-star secondary players that they haven't had 4 stars back there in the secondary for a long time. So, yes, there is promise. There is hope. The biggest hope is we play football this year.
Yeah. Well, we love Barry Odom, by the way. You got a guy who loves to compete, and I know he knows his X's and O's. I was, privileged to the 2 or 3 years of weekly meetings with him. On what his defense was going to do, so I can attest what a find you got in him. Well, if you weren't an Arkansan, you might not know that much about Sam Pittman. I think everybody knew about Eric Musselman, and I want to tell you, and I said this when it happened. I thought Arkansas found gold when they got him. I think he is going to be a sure thing for you guys, and it looks like Memphis and Arkansas are going to start playing each other again.
Yeah, that's good, and I think that's a good rivalry to start again. It's a good, my gosh, even if you take Arkansas being in the northwest corner and Memphis being right across the line from West Memphis, it's still only, 4.5 hours between the campuses. I think that's very good rivalry. Eric Musselman has exceeded expectations. His first year, I know a lot of people would say, well, gosh, the reason Mike Anderson wasn't retained was because you had these teams that kept winning 18 and 19 and didn't go to the NCAA tournament. Okay, so Eric got 20. We don't know if they'd have gotten to the NCAA tournament. It would have been awfully hard, probably win at least 2 more games at the SEC tournament, maybe 3 to get there. But, boy, did they turn the corner. Now, he cleared a lot of the roster last year, and a lot more of it's been cleared this year. He is the king of the transfer portal. We didn't even know what that was 2 years ago. This guy, I think he must sleep with his ear to the transfer portal, and as soon as it bings somebody's in there, he's immediately looking and offering them a scholarship. And then he brings in 4 freshmen. They're all top 100 players in the country, recruiting class rated number anywhere from 4 to 6, depending on your services, coming in here this year. So, yes, I think that if Eric Musselman's happy at Arkansas, and he seems to be, and he'll stay a while, I think we will see the Razorbacks back in the NCAA tournament year after year after year.
We look forward to that. That is for sure. Rick, as always, we appreciate chatting with you. Stay healthy, and let's hope we have a football season so your folks can enjoy all those home games, and we'll see what happens with Notre Dame.
Next time I'm on with you, I hope we're previewing a football game. Won't that be good?
Wouldn't that be great?
You got it.
Yes.
Thank you, Rick.
All right, Dave, Brett, you bet. Thank you.
You got it. Rick Schaefer from the University, actually the Buzz in Arkansas, but there is no better historian on the University of Arkansas than Rick Schaefer. I can guarantee that. Roofing is basically an essential emergency service, but sadly we don't realize it until the damage starts affecting the inside of your home. Please don't wait till you've got a problem. Go take a look right now. If it ever rains again, you'll really get a sense. You look up and you can see, did that stain get bigger? Let's see. We don't have any right now, but you really need to think about those things, especially if you haven't had your roof checked out in several years. Brian Elder Roofing Solutions, that's what they do. They come out and they take a look around. They use only the best products on the market. They also provide their customers with one of the best warranties you could find. You can ask any roofing contractor. They know about Brian Elder with his no questions asked warranty. And They do go the extra mile for you, literally. They will measure your roof with the latest technology, they like to say, from outer space, but they really do have the latest. So if you've got any issues or you'd like a check, please pick up the phone. Everybody knows the number. It's famous by now, 901-867-0303. That's 867-0303 for Brian Elder Roofing Solutions. Back in a minute to put a wrap on hour number 1 of Sports Time on Sports 56.
Want to get your voice heard? Hit us up on the First Bank phone line or First Bank text line.
We started Untuck It to create the perfect untucked shirts. Along the way, we had other great ideas, like super comfortable polos that come out of the dryer looking crisp, wrinkle-free, and always at that just right length. Choose from our traditional PK, easy wrinkle-free, and performance styles that wick moisture, so even when it's hot in the shade, you'll feel cool and dry in an Untuck It polo. Try our famous polos now at untuckit.com or any of our 85-plus stores. Untuck It, shirts designed to be worn untucked.
Napa know-how.
Get all the quality parts you need at your locally owned Napa. Because right now, when you order from Napa online, you can pick up curbside at your local store in just 30 minutes. Or get your order delivered direct to your door with free one-day shipping on over 160,000 quality parts when you spend $35 or more. Quality parts delivered quickly and safely. That's Napa know-how.
Napa know-how.
At participating stores, standard ground shipping and exclusions apply.
Hi, I'm Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. Can anyone explain to me why anyone would care how I measure your roof? We have all heard about measuring your roof from outer space. Well, to be honest, there are aerial pictures that are taken every 4 years that can be used to measure a building, but it's not from outer space. Besides, no one, and I mean no one, can tell you what's wrong with your roof or even if you need one by using pictures that might be 4 years old. If you would rather do business with a family-owned and operated business with a lifelong tie to Memphis that refuses to mislead or use gimmicks, please give me a call. Best products, best warranties, and the best customer service we know how to provide. Fiveash Roofing, proud partner of the Memphis Tigers and the official roofer of the Memphis Tigers home team. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Commitment, dedication, perseverance. At FedEx, our people are our strength. Even during these unprecedented times, we are delivering medical supplies, test kits, and the things you need every day. Helping the world move forward together. Strength, what we deliver by delivering. FedEx.
Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
What I'm saying is, this is the anthem. Throw all your hands up. Y'all got to feel me. Sing if you're with me. Yeah.
Welcome back in. Wolo and Stats with you. Coming up at the top of the hour, we'll talk some NBA with Keith Smith, who is in Orlando, not necessarily in the bubble, but I guess the big story today is no Zion, which would actually, if he is not back in time, would
that's a big one.
Help out the Grizzlies' chances of keeping that 8 spot, wouldn't it?
Sure could. Dave and Rick Schaefer in our last segment was talking about Arkansas and Arkansas State, the potential of them playing in football. It's going to happen in my lifetime. It's going to happen soon. Now, Arkansas is fully scheduled out until 2025. They only have 2 games on the 2025 schedule at Memphis and home against Notre Dame. But this year, you're going to see so much scheduling on the fly that some of these hard and fast future non-conference opponents may not come off as scheduled now, because you're going to have to go out there and renegotiate a lot of contracts for juggling this year, missing this year. And Laird Veach can speak to that with us when we visit with him at 5:00, because you're going to have it. When does Memphis get that makeup game with Purdue? And for this year, for Arkansas State, you know how big I am on their quarterback. Also this. They return all five offensive linemen starters, and we know, especially early, how important that is for a college football team.
If you were Laird Veach, would you in trying to make that game up with Purdue, say, look, give us something for the $750,000 that we had budgeted this year? I mean, you guys made $55.6 million last year as a school in the Big Ten. Or would you say, all right, we understand, give us a home and home instead of the one game, because that is a one-game deal with Purdue where Memphis went for $750. Instead of that, give us a home game. Make it a home and home series.
I'm going to let him speak for himself, and we'll ask him that at 5.
Okay, we can definitely ask him that one, and because I've been thinking about it. But here's the problem: if you make that game up, I mean, let's face it. Right now, every school is in dire financial straits. If they say, okay, you know what, we're going to give you that game. We're going to move a school. We'll play you in 4 years. We'll give you that game. You're going to get your $750. I need the money now. I don't need it in 4 years. Hopefully by then, if landscape will change, the AAC will have more TV money because it is on an escalating schedule. I need it now. That's why I don't know what you do in that regard.
And Dave, a lot of places for their radio rights fees, mostly controlled by Learfield IMG, not all, but mostly controlled by them. There's even some thought out there of people going out and making an offer now in cash for getting those rights. I mean, Ben Sutton could redo what he did at IMG all over again if he wanted to, if he found the right investors.
True, or a guy, and you're more familiar with this scenario than I am, but a guy like Steve Davenport, who was instrumental in setting up and growing the Mississippi State Network, or a guy like John Ward did for Tennessee in the last
At one
few
time,
years.
Steve had Ole Miss and Mississippi State.
So you were talking about Learfield coming in and gobbling up with IMG, and then, of course, all of them merging, really one big group now. And they may have overextended themselves a little bit as they are trying to renegotiate their deals. You're right. Somebody could come up and say, you know what? We could do their model. We'll guarantee you this. But I don't know who's going to do that right now in this pandemic. You might want to wait 6 months.
Well, somebody that's very, very cash liquid that they could consider. Not everybody can. Not everybody would have the ability then after you got it of the transmission and the marketing and merchandising of it. But Dave, you definitely could see somebody try it, because we've learned a lot since March 11th on a lot of fronts: health, finances, sports, and otherwise. But we have learned the big difference between a big, fancy, exotic, sexy financial statement and being liquid. Being liquid means you have cash.
Yep, no doubt. Going back to the Arkansas football schedule for just a second, as you mentioned it, and they're scheduled out out through 2025. Is there
through 2024?
Is there any team on there, like a MAC school, a Sun Belt school, that could be in jeopardy of not being on there?
Yes, Kent State's on their schedule for 23 and 24, and I don't know if Rice would be in jeopardy, but Sun Belt. Rick mentioned Louisiana Monroe for this year.
Did you see Rice, by the way? I don't think this was a hoax. Rice is actually proposing that they would have some in-class sessions outside in tents.
Well, they're in the eye of the storm in Houston.
Yeah, they are. They are. Absolutely that. We take this time out. When we come back to Orlando, we will go. 1 hour in the books on this Thursday on Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wallow and Stats.
Farmers Insurance knows that when you're in the car and that song comes on, yes, that's the one, you have no choice but to pull out your imaginary drumsticks and smash those cymbals and stomp on that kick pedal, which unfortunately is the accelerator pedal. And we covered it. Talk to a farmer's agent who knows a thing or two because they've seen a thing or two.
Call Chad Gatlin at 901-235-1176 or get a fast quote at memphisfarmers.com.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Underwritten by Farmers Truck Fire Insurance Exchanges and Affiliates. Products not available in every state. Good news. Southland Casino is now back open. That's right. The most spacious casino floor in the Mid-South is ready to welcome you back to the action with live blackjack, roulette, craps, and all your favorite slots. The action kicks off every day at 9 a.m. and rolls all the way till 5 o'clock the next morning. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead and make the short drive to Southland. We're ready for you. Must be 21 plus. Play responsibly. For help quitting, call 800-522-4700.
Hey folks, I'm Jarrett Carter. My family recently purchased East Memphis Ace Hardware at Quince and White Station, and we're excited to offer the best selection of Big Green Egg and Traeger grills. And then don't forget about our Benjamin Moore Paint Studio and the Garden Center for flowers. Save 60% with our new Duracell key fob replacement program. We have a master locksmith service as well as glass cutting and screen repair. The East Memphis Ace Hardware, located at Quince and White Station behind Three Little Pigs.
There's a new commissary in town in Collierville. Germantown Commissary is doubling. Yeah, they're still going to have the old Germantown Commissary by the tracks, but now there's a huge new Germantown Commissary in Collierville at Poplar and Houston Levee Road. It's huge, too. There's a drive-through. There's plenty of parking. No telephone pole to get in your way. A cool patio. It's right by the track, so the tradition continues. And this is a tradition that's been around forever. That commissary is famous for hickory-smoked, slow-cooked Memphis-style barbecue. They've got a private party room at the new one in Collierville. Self-catering still continues. Party packs for $5.95. Basically, the great ribs, the great pulled shoulder, the great deviled eggs. Everything is there in Collierville and Germantown now. So there is now a Germantown and Collierville style of barbecue. It's called Germantown Commissary.
We are Sports 56 WHBQ Memphis, WIVG-FM Tunica Memphis, and WPG-FLP Memphis. Flynn Broadcasting Stations. Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Hour number 2 on this hot Thursday. Wolo and Stats with you until 6 o'clock. We've talked a bunch college football and talked a little bit about the soccer game from last night and the 30,000 that were in Bristol. That was nice, and we're now going to wait to see what the health department in Shelby County thinks about July the 25th, opening up AutoZone Park for a limited number of fans that might get to go see 901 FC. We will wait on that. That is for sure. In the meantime, I mentioned a little bit earlier when talking with Brett about how pleased I was so far, knock on wood, that the bubble in Orlando seems to be holding up. We've had a couple of injuries. We've had Zion leave today for an urgent family matter that apparently was medical. They weren't specific. Hopefully everything will be okay, and he'll get to come back and compete in those 8 games as the Grizzlies and the Pelicans will battle here for the final playoff spot in the West. But I've been impressed that we have not had a COVID case in the bubble, and that's critical for this thing to continue. Near the bubble in Orlando is our friend from Yahoo Sports, and we'd like to welcome Keith Smith again to the show. And so far, Keith, pretty darn good, huh?
Yeah, so far all the protocols that were put in place, both pre-arrival and since the arrival, are working as planned. We had a couple players break the rules, and the NBA immediately enforced that they go back into quarantine for 10 days. And so far everything is going exactly as the NBA had planned. So that is, a good thing. And, we'll see when we get into weeks 2 and 3 after guys have been here longer than what's an average road trip, if guys can still hold out and do what they're supposed to do. But so far, so good.
And what's the biggest concern for the league now? Is someone entering into the bubble that's not supposed to be there, or exiting the bubble that's not supposed to be there, or not supposed to exit it?
Yeah, it's exiting. Getting in is not something there's a lot of worry about. Almost all of these places where the players are, whether it be in their hotels or it's at the practice locations, or over at the ESPN Wide World of Sports Complex, which is both practices and games. Excuse me, the NBA is not overly worried, nor is Disney, about anybody getting in. Most of those places are one way in, one way out with heavy security. But players are not held to having to stay. They can leave if they want. They've been, repeatedly clear about that. Even Rashawn Holmes leaving to go down to the street in front of the hotel and pick up a food delivery, that was fine. They were going to let him go. But that comes with, when you come back, you're going into quarantine for 10 days because it wasn't an excused absence. So that's kind of the penalty, if you will, of not being able to just do what you got to do inside the bubble.
We saw the pictures of the food, and we read a couple of things, and the roach and all that other stuff. Keith, give us your best, and you worked for Disney, so you know these properties really well. What is it really like for them there? I know it's not the Four Seasons, but it's certainly not the Roach Hotel.
No, it's not at all. It is all three of the resorts where the players are being housed are high-end resorts. The rooms that they're in on the off-season go for about $300 a night, all the way up to about $500 or $600 a night. So these are pretty nice hotel rooms. When Rajon Rondo tweeted about it being Motel 6, that was something I can tell you the Disney people did not like, and therefore the NBA people did not like. And it also verified Rajon Rondo has probably not spent much time in Motel 6s in his entire life. The reality is the food piece, when they were critical of the food, that was very early on. That was while they were in quarantine. And whenever you had a couple players complain about that, you had a couple more come back and say, hey, come on, it's no worse than the boxed meals we get when we're on the team playing and the like. And since they have been out of quarantine and they're able to roam a little more, there's a lot more selection food-wise. They're starting to do a lot of the activities like the fishing and golfing and some of those things. You're starting to see a lot less complaining from the players.
Let's go on the floor and talk Rondo. How big was that injury to the Lakers?
Yeah, it's big. Now you're without Avery Bradley and Rajon Rondo, who were the Lakers' two primary point guards. For all that LeBron James runs the offense when he's in the game, he doesn't defend the opposing team's point guard. That was Avery Bradley, Rajon Rondo. So now that puts a lot of pressure on Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who all accounts are is going to move into the starting five. And then you're going to see a lot more of Alex Caruso behind him. And then that opens up some opportunity for either Dion Waiters or J.R. Smith or both of them to see more minutes. The Lakers are, confident in their depth that it'll hold up. The problem is never when you lose the first guy. It's always when you lose the next guy behind him, and that's what's happened to the Lakers now because you only have so much depth. But they're hopeful they'll have enough to get through these seeding games in the early round, and then when you're into the later rounds of the playoffs, Rondo should be able to make it back on the floor.
It seems like everything's conspiring for the Grizzlies. I mean, De'Aaron Fox gets hurt. I don't know how long he's out, but I with a sprained ankle, depending on the severity, that's at least, a week or so, or 10, 12 days. And that means he's not at 100% when he comes back, and those things can be tricky, and he's relying on speed. And now you mentioned Rondo and now Zion. If Zion does not come back in time, and he could either get 4-day quarantine or 10-day quarantine, correctly, depending on how much testing he does.
Yeah, that's correct. It's going to actually be between 4 and 14 days for Zion. And that's where when I think, people overreacted to the NBA statement of, we'll see, depending on what he does while he's gone, how long he's in quarantine. And people took that to mean, they're going to let him come back and play the first day he's back. And that was not the case. It was the NBA saying, hey, we have a, policy and protocol in place that says 4 days if you are, test negative and you abide by all the testing while you're gone, then up to 14 days if you don't, and those are the things that matter. But yeah, for the Grizzlies, it's looking like, depending on what happens with Zion, because we still don't know. There's the chance exists he could be back well in advance of the Grizzlies' first game. We've still got a couple weeks, or the Pelicans' first game, rather. We've still got a couple weeks, or 2 weeks from today.
Right.
So he could be back in plenty of time, but it's starting to look like the Portland Trailblazers, who have only gotten healthier since the season stopped. They've returned a couple of their big men, and they're starting to look pretty good. It looks like that might be their primary competition for that 8th seed. But I think the Pelicans, I do think Zion we'll be back before things get too far along, and we'll see this play out, I think, the way a lot of people expected, with those two chasing Memphis for that final playoff spot.
And that first afternoon of the full schedule on that Friday, 2 weeks from today, it starts with 2 games. And then that Friday, just about everybody going. It will be Grizzlies against Portland. They will tip off at 3 o'clock Central Time. And that'll go a long way to deciding some momentum. The Grizzlies enter into the Orlando bubble with the magic number of 5. That would, with Portland, that would knock it down considerably.
Yeah, it absolutely would. Those head-to-head games are going to be huge for deciding if we even get that play-in or not. And it's going to be big to, I think there's started to become almost a little bit of a misconception that the Grizzlies are a lock for the play-in no matter what. If for some reason the Pelicans and Trailblazers were both to pass them, then they're the ones who go into that play-in. So it's only, it matters who's in the 8 and 9 seed. It's, Memphis has a pretty good leg up, and with only 8 games to go, making up that much ground is fairly unlikely. But those head-to-head games are going to take on added importance with what we're trying to figure out here for playoff spots for the rest of the way.
We here, we concentrate on the team. That's the home team, and it's the healthiest they've been all year. And then you throw in Justice Winslow. But when you're there and you see everybody, what is the general consensus about Memphis's chances of keeping the 8 spot or even slipping to 9 and playing in the play-in?
Yeah, I think outside of those teams that are chasing them, which may be speaking from a little more of a hopeful place, everybody believes Memphis is probably going to hang on to that, because I think everyone believes they're going to either be 8th or 9th, most likely 8th. And then beating them 2 times in a row is going to be tough. That's a tough thing to do, anytime, especially back-to-back days. That's a hard thing to do, is to beat a team 2 days in a row. So that's going to be something that I think, is really going to give the Grizzlies a leg up on everybody else. Now, what's interesting is I think the San Antonio Spurs, basically, they haven't fully waved the white flag on this season, but without LaMarcus Aldridge and without Trey Lyles now, I think Greg Popovich basically said, we're going to focus on our young guys. That's the experience we're looking for. So that eliminates yet another team chasing down Memphis. So things are really starting to look pretty good for the Grizzlies to, at a bare minimum, get into the play-in. And if they get into the play-in, I think their chances are pretty good.
Yeah, and if they don't, you look at Portland's schedule after opening against Memphis, then they have Boston, Houston, Denver, the Clippers, and the 76ers. That's brutal.
It is, yeah. They've definitely got some tough teams that they're going to have to try to beat to hang in that race. And that's to your point earlier. If they can beat Portland, that really makes it difficult for Portland to make up that ground. It's most expect, as long as Zion is there, that it's going to be New Orleans and Memphis that it comes down to, just because New Orleans has the much easier schedule, which was the NBA doing their best to replicate the fact that the Pelicans have by far and away the league's easiest closing schedule to go the rest of the season anyway. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
If Zion does not come back, that changes everything, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does to some extent. Now, they got, clearly a good amount of experience playing without him already this year, and they've got a pretty good amount of depth up front, so I think they'll be able to work through that. But when it changes, it makes things certainly a lot harder on them, because Zion is, he is just such a special talent in that front court, so I think that certainly does make things a lot more difficult for them to pull off. But, I think they still feel pretty good that if he is not back, at least right away, that they can kind of hold court and stay within the 4 games and hopefully get them back before the seeding games and any kind of playing games are all said and done.
Keith, we had maybe the seminal sports moment of 2020 on March 11th, when Rudy Gobert was suddenly taken off the court after the test results, the Utah Jazz trainer and medical staff moving quickly. What's the one fire alarm? What's the one thing that would shut it down in the middle of it in Orlando? What is the thing the league would be the most scared of?
Yeah, it's a big outbreak, and they have not put a number of cases where they would shut down, and I think that's been very purposeful, because they don't want people like me creating a spreadsheet and tracking it and then asking about it when we get there. So they have been very clear that they're not saying what it is, but they have said, an outbreak would shut them down. And that is clearly the fear is if you get, one or two people in, you believe you can handle that, as we've already seen with a couple of the positive tests that clearly came from outside the bubble. But if you start getting positive tests in a couple weeks after guys have been there for a while, and then if that starts to really expand into multiple players or multiple staffers, that starts to become a major concern. And that's, I think, the only thing that's going to shut this down. Otherwise, they're going to keep plugging along and moving forward.
If you were to try to pinpoint a team that most benefited by the stoppage and now everybody's healthy and coming back that really wants to play, what team would that be?
I've got two. I'll give you one in each conference. The first one is the Houston Rockets. As long as Russell Westbrook is able to get there and play for the Rockets, I think they were a major benefactor of being out. I think what's important for folks to remember is not only were they playing the very small lineups where Robert Covington was the biggest guy in the opening lineup and everybody was playing up a position or two, they were also playing an extremely short rotation. They were only playing 7 or 8 guys. And they were starting to get a lot of bumps and bruises. Guys are starting to get worn down. And that's been kind of the story with the Rockets over the last few years. So as long as Russell Westbrook is able to come back from his positive coronavirus test and play for the Rockets, I think that they're going to be a team that's really going to come into this thing and do some damage. And then why I'm giving you two teams, because you talked about teams that really want to be there and want it. I think the Boston Celtics are really putting out a vibe of, hey, we're on a mission. We're here to win a title. And they are repeatedly, any media availability that is done, they have mentioned that almost to a man of, hey, we're focused. We know what we're here for. We're here to do this. They've talked about how together they are as a team. And they're another team that benefited some from being on this hiatus where they were able to rest up, get off their feet a little. Now, they've got some worries about Kemba Walker, but all indications are that that's an abundance of caution. They're just really being careful with him and that he should be ready to go once the playoffs start. So I think if matchups fall Boston's way, they're a team that can be really dangerous.
All right, with that, Keith, I think you may have just told us in the teams that you like competitively. What team do you think has really enjoyed this experience, embraced it? Okay, this is the hand dealt. Let's go down there and treat it like something we've never seen before. And the opposite of that, what team do you think's down there checking off the days till they can get the heck out of there?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I don't know about the second part, who's checking off the days. I think you got to start to wonder about the poor Brooklyn Nets, where they, I think if I could get my sneakers on and clear quarantine, I might have a shot to play in some of these seeding games for them because so many guys are out. You have to start to wonder at what point the guys who are still left standing are like, what are we doing here? As far as the teams that are really kind of enjoying themselves, I think it's the teams you're seeing doing a lot of stuff off the floor together. The Dallas Mavericks come to mind. They are all over social media together as a team, doing all sorts of things, the fishing and riding bikes and those kind of things. The Miami Heat have kind of really locked into that Heat culture mindset of, hey, we're really working here. We're trying to do damage in the rest of the way and these kind of things. So I think it's interesting to see how many of the teams are really fully locking in what the goal is here, but then the teams that are going to enjoy themselves. And I think that was something Brad Stevens said that has really stuck with me is the teams that go deep into the season are going to be the teams that embrace this and have fun with it and embrace the grind of being together and really are able to put away all the distractions and stay together the longest. Those are the teams that are going to go deep.
I think from what I've seen, the Grizzlies are sort of that same sort of way. But
it feels like a good esprit de corps. It really does.
It really does. And I've heard some guys say it's the most together team more than the core four, which I thought was a pretty together team. But no one knows what it's going to be like to be playing in these empty gyms. I don't think there's any team that gets a benefit or has a disadvantage because they're playing in this neutral thing. But I do think it's going to be so different. Have the players talked a little bit about that at all?
They have. Well, what's interesting is when you talk about the players who either came from small colleges or the guys who have extensive experience overseas, a lot of those guys are more familiar with playing in, let's just say, low crowd environments or sometimes empty gyms. Brad Wanamaker for the Celtics, who has played extensively overseas for several years before coming to the NBA, talked about how some of the teams he was on, because of fan violence, he had played games where there were no fans allowed in the gyms. It was played under a lockout environment. So he's talked about that a little bit. For the most part, what you're hearing from the players and the coaches is it'll be weird the first time out. It'll feel a little odd. But then they all kind of, to a man, talk about how then competitiveness takes over. And you've heard coaches and players talk about you can put these guys in an empty gym in the middle of nowhere and roll out the ball, and they want to go at each other, and they want to win. And that's part of what makes NBA players is the fact that they really want to get after it and compete. So there's really not a whole lot of concern that after you're past, a little bit of the initial weirdness, that you're going to be ready to go, and you're going to see some pretty good competitive basketball.
I can't wait. It's 2 weeks. That is for sure. And then we'll, I guess, get to figure the whole thing out. Nothing like this has ever happened before. I'm guessing it'll be a little bit like a AAU setup, although there are more fans probably at a AAU setup. How will you, Yahoo Sports, how will you cover this thing?
Well, we are very fortunate to have Chris Haynes, our lead guy for Yahoo Sports, he's in the bubble. He was one of the first to arrive at the bubble because he's also doing work for Turner as part of the TNT broadcast. So he's there, but the rest of us, we're going to cover it from afar. We'll cover from the couch, as I like to call it. I'll be doing, covering all the games. I'll definitely be tweeting throughout. And we'll just be looking for interesting storylines leading up to it. That's kind of a lot of what's happening right now. And then once the games start, that's when it gets fun to me, especially once we're in those playoff matchups. So you can really start to talk about the individual matchups, the team dynamics going against each other. And then once a playoff series goes, it always takes on its own life and a story of its own because you get the adjustments, and then more important, the adjustments to those adjustments as playoff series go. So I can't wait for that to start. I know it'll be different because we don't have home court advantage, but I think we're going to get a lot more of the very best teams are going to win because nobody's relying on, hey, we pulled off an upset. Now we're going to get the bump from home court and those kind of things. I think you're going to see teams really, come to shine that are, the best of the best.
It is going to be the definition of neutrality. I mean, it's going to be basketball at The Hague. It is neutral as it can get.
Well, if a lower seed, if you think about it, if the lower seed upsets the higher seed and there's no home court to really take advantage of, you might see that lower seed, have a better chance of pulling off the upset the whole way.
Good.
Yeah, you definitely can, and that's something that has been mentioned for sure. Well, what's interesting, I think, with this that I think is really funny is, too, you had somebody on the flip side say, if a team goes down 2-0 in a series, and then normally you can at least rally around, all right, we're headed home, we're going to get that bump, we can get back in this thing. There's a lot of thought of it might start to look like, all right, we've been here a month, I'm ready to go, well, let's get out of here. Let's go home. And you might see those teams, if they're down 2-0, potentially pack it in if they don't really feel like they can come back. So I think that's where you might see some of those teams really push to get those early series leads and really, drive those teams down to kind of almost, break them and force them into quitting. So, but you're absolutely right. We don't really know what to expect. Anybody who tells you they know exactly how this is going to play out, either as a crystal ball or they time travel to the future or, they're just lying to you because I don't know that anybody knows exactly what to expect.
I know. I guess this much. We can expect to see every game, right? Every game's going to be on TV, whether you're watching it on Fox Sports or NBA TV. They're all available, correct?
Correct. They're all either going to be on one of the national channels or on NBA TV or on the local providers. And then if you're out of market, NBA League Pass will be up and running. you'll be able to watch that way. So every single game, I believe the max there is 7 games in a single day. So you'll be able to watch, basketball. Really, you're coming right out of lunchtime, right, or lunchtime for you guys in the Central Time Zone, right out of lunch for us, and straight through the rest of the night. My favorite part on the East Coast, the last game of the night, any night, is I believe it's 9 o'clock, which is really perfect for me, because that means these early bedtimes I've gotten used to, I'll be able to keep that a little bit instead of going to bed around 2 in the morning after the West Coast wraps up.
Well, Keith, we thank you, and I know we're going to talk to you a lot more as we get closer and closer. We're 2 weeks away. So once we start, we really have some games to talk about, and hopefully we keep the COVID away and that we get these games in, and it sure looks good so far. Those protocols are holding up, and we look forward to chatting with you in a couple of weeks.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much. You all stay safe, you and yours.
You too. And that is Keith Smith from Yahoo Sports down in Orlando. The title sponsor for this hour of the program is Homer Skelton Hyundai. The 2021 models have started to arrive. The Hyundai Tucson ranked number 1 2020 compact SUV for initial quality. This is from J.D. Power. The Hyundai Veloster ranked number 1 2020 compact sport car for initial quality, again, according to J.D. Power. Auto Trader named Hyundai as the best non-luxury certified pre-owned program. They got a powertrain warranty even on the certified pre-owned cars, and some of them go up to 100,000 miles. Hyundai tied for the most top safety pick vehicles in 2020. They're just good. And when you talk about my guys at Homer Skelton Hyundai, all I can tell you is this. They've been around for a long time. I went and saw them all today. Every one of those guys still there. It's the same crew. They love working with you. They love working together. They love finding incentives to make sure you get the best deal. Go see what the standard is like. Get on Lamar into Mississippi, turn left at the very first exit, Craft Road. Craft Road and Highway 78. That's where you'll find great deals at Homer Skelton Hyundai. We are back in just 1 minute. When we come back, we'll talk some National Football League with our good friend Russell Copeland. Don't go anywhere. He is next.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Peter Edmiston and C.J. Hertz. Right here on Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7 FM.
Is your wife asking you to stop eating junk food? Well, we have you covered at Humdinger's. It's quick and it's healthy, and most important, it tastes amazing. With many choices from salmon salad to rainbow trout and grilled asparagus. Come visit us for lunch at Humdinger's, 6300 Poplar Avenue. So good, Coach Penny eats with us weekly. Don't forget, Humdinger's offers full-service catering for weddings, social events, or your corporate lunches. You can call 901-260-8292 to find out more.
Ugh. My stomach.
Don't worry, I've got you covered.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea. What's that?
It's Pepto-Bismol Chews.
Pepto-Bismol's now in a chew?
Yeah, they taste great and provide fast relief. And now you can always have Pepto-Bismol handy.
Let me try it.
Try new Pepto-Bismol Chews for fast relief.
Nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Like me, my opponents are Republicans, but there's a big difference. Tennessee is my first concern, not special interest, not Washington, and I'm not blindly following anyone. I'll support President Trump's conservative policies, but I'm not a yes man. I'll only be loyal to you. My focus is pushing for conservative Tennessee values. I'm George Flynn, candidate for U.S. Senate. I approve this message and ask for your vote to put real solutions into action for you.
Glad to announce the Rendezvous open for business 11A to 8P Tuesday through Saturday. World famous Rendezvous up and running. If you need some barbecue nachos, brisket, ribs, maybe a cheese and sausage plate, the Rendezvous back and open for dine-in, carry-out, and curbside. While not much changes in the alley basement, you will see a few small differences and additions. For now, open 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday, and they have desserts. Think key lime pie tarts, chocolate chess pie tarts. Spend some time downtown and visit our friends at the Rendezvous.
in the Alley in downtown Memphis since 1948. All of the Virgus family thanks Memphis and the Mid-South so very much for your support during these times, and they're there for you, as always, in the Alley in downtown Memphis. Mr. Charlie Virgos and family's famous restaurant, The Rendezvous.
Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Welcome back in halfway through our Thursday edition. It's gotten darker outside. I've heard some thunder. Might we get some wet stuff to cool us off for a portion of time? We will keep you updated, that is for certain. Well, we haven't talked to Russell Copeland since the Super Bowl and the last snap of football really for the year. We're getting close to, on paper, ready for the first snap of this year. Will there be exhibition games? We don't know. That's all going to come down to what the NFLPA has to say as they try to work all of this out. We mentioned the story today about the COVID, 72 cases since the July 6th. But as Brett likes to say, there were a lot of healthy people, too. That is for sure. We've had a $500 million signing and a guy who turned down $110 million guaranteed that are quarterbacks. And let's get to a guy who caught passes from quarterbacks. That would be our friend Russell Copeland. Russell, so good to chat with you. Hope you and your family are doing well right now and much healthier than the last time we spoke.
Hey, we are. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dave.
All right, give me your sense.
That's good, Russell.
Give me your sense of the $500 million Patrick Mahomes deal.
Well, I think when you look at the deal, I think it's cap friendly first of all for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs look at what Tom Brady has been able to do and try to keep the nucleus together. I think when you look at that big number, I think the most important part of that number is what's guaranteed, and I think it's like around $141 million. But I think when you look at the first couple of years, the first 3 years, he's not really making a whole lot of money as far as the top quarterback. I think Teddy Bridgewater maybe makes more. So when I look at this deal, Dave, to be honestly, I think he's getting $140-something million guaranteed. He got around 60-something up front. I think he will renegotiate after year 2 or 3. And I think he'll have it in his contract pretty much. He'll probably always be in the running to be the top earning quarterback in the National Football League.
And what does it do to future quarterbacks that are all kind of lined up for the new deals for Dak not to get his? Does that hurt them? And especially in these times of so many questions about finances and the pandemic, does it hurt everybody lined up behind Dak that he really didn't get the big deal that he eventually will get?
Honestly, guys, I really think it's a win-win situation when I look at the Cowboys and I look at Dak Prescott. This is what I'm going to say from Dak Prescott. You look at Kirk Cousins and he's with the Washington Redskins. He was tendered 2 years. He had a franchise tag for 2 years. This guy has made well over $200 million since then. He signed to $84 million after leaving the Redskins. $31.2 million, when I look at it and I calculate it, that's not chump change. That's a good number to make for 1 year. Now, he goes out and he plays well. Either he gets tagged or he gets a big deal. After year 2022, you have a TV deal that's coming up. So when you look at the Dallas Cowboys standpoint, is $100 million cheaper guaranteed or is $31 million cheaper guaranteed? Jerry Jones wants to compete for championships. He wants to win division titles. And when I look at Dak Prescott, yes, he started for 4 years, but when I look at big games, especially last year, he was 1-7, going against teams 500 or better. When it came down to it, to win a playoff game against a decimated team, the Philadelphia Eagles, to win a division, go into the playoffs, they simply could not get it done. So I think, for me personally, that's the reason why he doesn't have the big number of $180, $200 million deal. $110 million is cool, but Dak wants more. So I think it's a win-win situation for both teams.
Do you think in the long run Dak gets his money? Or, I've heard Jerry Jones getting ripped on a lot of places. But you just mentioned, the way the big money games have been with Dak, and maybe Jerry thinks he can do better in the long run, and he's going to
1 and 2 in the playoffs,
and he's going to let him test the waters this year. And he'll be happy to give him big money if indeed he comes through for him this year, like an NFC championship game. Not saying he has to go to the Super Bowl, but get that far. Do you think that Dak is going to end up making the big money?
Well, I think, first of all, he has to stay healthy. But for me, when I look at what's around Dak Prescott from a defensive standpoint, I look at what they did in the draft, I look at what they're doing in the offseason, I look at their defensive line, how they've upgraded their linebacker position is stellar. So when you look at on offense, I think he has the best 1-2 punch in the running backs when you look at Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. You look at the wide receivers. I mean, he has Amari Cooper. Michael Gallup showed in his second year that he can be a phenomenal number 2 wide receiver. And you go out and get the first-round wide receiver out of Oklahoma when you look at C.D. Lamb. I think he'll fit very, very well in the slot. I think he replaces Cobb. If he does not take this team deep into the playoffs and compete for an NFC championship, then Jerry Jones is 100% right. That's what you want your franchise quarterback to do, especially when you stay cap-friendly and you've given him all the weapons that he needs offensively and also defensively. It's on Dak. He has to stay healthy, and if he does not have the type of year going deep into the playoffs, he shouldn't get the big money, if you ask me. He should not.
But if he does, if he just got to his, say, an NFC championship game, I'm not saying Super Bowl or bust or win it or bust, but if he got just to an NFC championship game, his agent can walk in with a blank check, can't he?
I think he gets paid. And when you look at Patrick Mahomes, we're going to compare these contracts and you look at money. Patrick Mahomes is just in his third year, just finished his third year, didn't play a whole lot his first year. And his first year starting, he's the MVP. Last year, I think what makes the money for Patrick Mahomes, and people say, oh, man, it's Patrick Mahomes. But when you look at when he comes back from injury and you look at the playoff run that he did and how he won games, especially when you look at the Texans and you look at it in the Super Bowl, didn't really have a good first half, didn't have a good third quarter, didn't have a great beginning of the fourth quarter. So when it came down to it and he had the last couple of possessions, he won the football game and he was the MVP and they won a Super Bowl. That is the difference to me when you look at quarterbacks. Can they win that game for you? Can they be game changers instead of game managers? You want them to win the game when they need to.
And Mahomes came from behind in every playoff game last year.
Exactly, David and Brett. And that's what I'm saying when I look at Dak Prescott. And I've been critical of Dak before, but I think Dak does deserve a contract. He does deserve a contract. For me, if I was Dak Prescott, you look at $100 and something million, $120 million, $100 guaranteed for where he is, I say, hey, I'll take that. But maybe Dak believes that he can get a bigger deal with the TV deal, and he feels like he's actually worth more than what Jerry Jones actually wants to commit to him. So, like I said earlier, guys, I think it's a win-win situation. $31 million for 1 year is not yet.
No, it's not chopped liver, that's for sure. But what about mentally? Do you think Dak sort of feels they don't really love me here?
Well, I think Dak is a unique guy. I think Dak is a great leader. I think he's looking at the situation and say, hey, I'll go out and prove myself again. I've been proving myself since I've been in this league. And, hey, thank you for giving me these weapons. And, look, you just went out and got Andy Dalton. Here's a former Pro Bowler. Here's a guy that definitely can play in this league. But right now what you just did for me, I'm going to go out and win the games for you. If I'm him, I'm going to win the games for you, and I'm trying to bring a championship, and the money will come.
Talking to Russell Copeland. Russell, do you think we will have any preseason football games, or do you think the league will buy into what the players are saying? They don't want any exhibition games. They want the salary cap to remain the same, even if the league suffers losses because people can't come to games, and they're, and rightfully so, miffed about COVID being a non-playing related injury.
Well, I think they will probably see maybe 2, or we won't see any. I think that's kind of where the line is going to be drawn. And before COVID-19, the players have always said that, preseason games is too many preseason games, especially the way the injuries are. So I think even when you look at the owners want to be able to make their money, but how many stars will play if it's 2 preseason games? I don't think it's going to be 4. I definitely don't think that. So how many of your stars really going to play with a season already being rushed when you don't have your OTAs, when you're about to start your training camp in 12 days? So I think you have to look at the players, and I think if you look at the owners, I think they may have to take a little loss here to be able to see what's best for the players and what's ultimately going to be best for the season so we can play 16 games in a playoff. But I think the season is really in jeopardy. If you ask me, I think it's in jeopardy to start on time. That's just my personal opinion with COVID and with states rising and the epidemic constantly spreading. I just think it's a big question mark if we can complete the whole entire NFL season.
Russell, how dangerous the health issue of players by not having preseason, especially with offensive line play and no continuity. Couldn't we be jeopardizing some quarterback of being injured?
Of course, I just think it's at an ultimate all-time high when you look at your conditioning. When you look at the players' continuity, all the players playing together. You just mentioned your offensive line, and here's guys' offensive and defensive line. When I played, all of them were on a weight regimen, meaning that if they didn't make their weight per week, they get fined so many dollars per pound that's over. It's very hard to work out on your own. I know some guys probably been working out and doing some things together, but a team concept, having your offensive line together, having that continuity to be able to protect the big money quarterback that's behind you, it's going to be tough. You look at your wide receivers, you look at your defensive back. That's when you're going to look at some pulled hamstrings, some pulled muscles. To be able to get 16 games in and being pushed when you have not did the vigorous workouts like you normally do with the OTAs starting in March and April and May. You haven't had those, so I think it's a big risk with all of the players being injured.
I'm torn. I used to think that the exhibition games were a waste of time. Maybe play one just to get a little bit of timing because you've got scrimmages with other teams in these camps now. You got camps every day where you got one-on-one competition with amongst yourself. But then I listened to Joe Theismann on this air say that he thought they needed 4 exhibition games because he really thought it helped the quality of play. And I heard Matt Nagy, who did not play a starter last year, say in the exhibition games that it was a major mistake because they weren't ready to play when the regular season began. So I'm kind of torn now. I think maybe there should be some exhibition games. What do you think is the perfect number? If you were making the rule, what would that be?
3. Give me 3. I'll let my starters play 2 games, and in the third season we'll work on the cuts and look at the few players that we need for special teams. But I do think veteran players need to get some game experience. They need to look at the 2-minute offense. They need to look at certain things, the wide receiver, defensive backs. They need to get to certain timing with the safeties. The quarterbacks need to get the timing with the center and the offensive line. The running backs need to be able to know who to block. So I do think 2 preseason games for the veterans to play would be good. 3 preseason games to be able to fill out your roster.
What is the latest you think the regular season could start, Russell?
Guys, I'm just looking at maybe sometime the first part of October. That's just, and all of this is my personal opinion. I don't have a time clock. I don't know, but I'm just looking at it now, just saying that with everything going on with players coming in and having COVID-19 and just not having the physical play. And some things are unknown, guys. Like, we don't really know what's going to happen once all of these players get together and they start meeting together. They're housing together. They're eating together. They're tackling. They're sweating. They're bleeding. They're in the training room. So we just have to really play this week by week and just really see what are the numbers for all of the teams. Is COVID going to be at a standstill, or do we start seeing an outbreak? And hopefully we don't. But it only takes 1 or 2 guys to start having an outbreak, especially when you talk about preseason games or you're talking about inter-squad games. Now you're looking at contracting the virus within 2 teams going back to different locations.
I'm thinking, and I said earlier, we've had the bubble in Orlando, and all these teams have been together, what, Brett, 10 days now since they met in Memphis, and then they went down to the bubble and they quarantined for 48 hours. We haven't had any cases. If you look at the Premier League in soccer, they all came together. There were initial cases when they came together, and then they've been in their own little bubble. And they haven't had any real outbreaks. Baseball, they had those initial cases. Now they've been playing inter-squad games. I don't think since the initial cases, correct me if I'm wrong, that they have had any kind of breakouts amongst the teams once they've been together. But football is going to be the biggest test because you just said it best. They're going to sweat
Can't
together,
bubble.
and they're going to bleed together, and
Get in a huddle.
they're going to the spittle comes out of these offensive linemen when they get hit by the defensive linemen. It's an entirely different ballgame. I don't know how it's going to work.
And Dave, this is totally different. This is way more infectious, and it's more life-threatening, I think. But when you look at a staph infection with a football player, a football team, that's something that can go through a locker room very fast and quickly, and they automatically separate the individual, and they try to make sure that they get the showers and everything such that clean. My biggest thing is that is it plausible to be able to put the families, the players, the coaches, all of the administration, scouts and all, in a bubble? Is it plausible to keep everyone in and we have regulations where no one kind of gets outside of that bubble? To me, that's the biggest thing. If you can keep all of these 53 players in a bubble, I think it's plausible. But I just don't think that we're going to be able to keep all of the families, day-to-day routine, not interact with people as much, and to be able to play 16 games. To me, that's a stretch.
Well, that's what they're doing in the NBA, at least until they get past the first round of the playoffs. Then they're going to have family, I guess, come. So that will hold up there. But I've not heard a plan of a bubble for the NFL at all. And I haven't heard of a bubble really for the baseball players. Have you, Brett?
No, it's almost going to be anti-bubble. They're going to travel town to town, hotel to hotel, and mostly like they always have. And Russell, today, 72 NFL players testing positive, about 2.5% of those tested. We've got to get to a number that we can digest and we can handle it. I don't think it's 7 or 8% for sure, but if 2.5% is alarming, I don't see how we ever start.
I mean, Brett, just what you said, and Dave, you said something about the baseball players. They don't have a bubble. And we're talking about the football players. They don't have a bubble. When you look at 70-something players and you haven't even tackled, you haven't even gotten in the training room, you haven't eaten together, you haven't had meeting rooms together, to me, that's just alarming. And if you do not have a bubble, let's just look at this quite frankly. The virus is contracted a lot of times that you're going out, right? You're leaving your home. And if you have everyone in your home and pretty much bubbled in, whoever goes out is taking a risk to come back and affect your whole household. So if you don't have a bubble, every day that you go out and you're not social distancing and you do not have a mask and everyone else in your house is not bubbled, I just think that risk is just going to be greater when you're looking at 32 teams with 53 players.
He is Russell Copeland. We'll be talking a lot with him once the NFL season, if the NFL season truly begins. Russell, please stay healthy. We'll stay in touch. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Same to you guys. Thank you.
All right. That is Russell Copeland. He's brought to you in part by Ken Garland. Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. Ken knows it is a big deal if you're going to do business with him. You're making a big commitment. You're building a new home or you're renovating your lovely home that you've been there for a long time. You love the location. You love the lot. You just want modern amenities. Renovation with innovation. He does that better than anybody else I know. And I want you to go see for yourself. Go to kengarland.com. Maybe you're looking for some land. He can find it for you. Or maybe you've got land and you're not sure what to do with it. He knows. He and his dad have been doing this thing for over 45 years in this market. You'll see if you go to kengarland.com. Maybe you'd like a new development. He's involved with Boyle in a gated community called Alaylon. It's on Messick Road, east of Kirby, all the way to McVeigh. 4-bedroom home starting at $875,000. Again, go to the website, kengarland.com, and then call 751-1632. Ken is a cool guy to talk with. Pick his brain a little bit. He sees all the little details, but yet he has the big vision picture too. 751-1632. Always on the money. Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. Back in a minute with a wrap of our second hour on this Thursday of Sports Time on Sports 56.
We are Sports 56 WHBQ. Listen to us daily on AM 560, 96.1 FM, or 87.7 FM.
Frontier Western Store is open and ready to serve you for all your needs in boots, apparel, pet food, and more. Frontier is proud to be a local leader here in the Mid-South when it comes to boots. Stop by the store today for an incredible selection of name brand work and dress boots. Come browse aisles and aisles of top quality boots at everyday low prices in our world famous boot showroom. Dan Post, Rocky, Durango, Twisted X, Georgia, Ariat, and many more. There are so many styles, colors, and fits available, you might need a hand picking out your favorites. Luckily, Frontier's knowledgeable sales staff will cheerfully assist you with any questions you have and ensure the proper fit of your new boots. Frontier also has an amazing selection of jeans and shirts by Wrangler, Ariat, and Carhartt, as well as a fully stocked women's boutique department with thousands of tops and dresses at unbelievable prices. New arrivals often. Frontier Western Store, 5880 Gilman Road in Olive Branch, and on the web at frontierwesternstore.com. Family owned and operated since 1967.
There's a chance your local Geico agent has the same hyper-specific taste in music as you.
Yeah, I can't get enough of neo-operatic breakbeat. Do you listen to Cale Bent and the Lettuce Works? Only every day.
But there's a better chance your local Geico agent could help you out with insurance. They'll work hard to provide sound advice and significant savings. You don't need a hip, underground music scene to do that. Local Geico agents. Call or visit yours today.
Summertime and the living is easy. No more cutting or paying utilities. Literally, you guys, Town Village Audubon Park, nestled in the heart of East Memphis, located corner of Park and Cherry, is a beautiful residential neighborhood. Looking for a great place to retire, but you still have a very active lifestyle? Then visit Town Village. Only requirements that you're 55 plus. Prices per month starting at $24.50. The Gourmet Chef welcomes you to visit our restaurant and bistro. Package includes 3 complimentary meals per day, maid service, free local transportation, monthly coffee club, themed dinner parties, lots of fun. Visit us and call Daniel or Bo at Town Village Audubon Park at 901-374-7342. There's no place like home. Town Village Audubon Park.
As you get back to business, small things can make a big difference, like marking safe distances with floor tape and posting reminders to wash hands. As always, Grainger is here to help, offering supplies and solutions for every industry. Free access to product specialists, 24/7 support, safety recovery guides, and more. It's part of our commitment to help you adapt and recover in these challenging times. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Cruising through our second hour. Here is something, Brett, we may not see ever again. Total operating revenue for the 18-19 fiscal year for the SEC schools was released in the last day or two. Texas A&M spent $212.7 million, which is the second most of any college in the country atop the SEC. And this blew me away. You know what their donations were? $85.2 million. People love to give to A&M in the state of Texas or around the country for that matter. $212.7 million. Georgia spent $174. Alabama $164. Alabama, by the way, spent their expenses were $164. Their total expenses actually were $185 million. So they lost 20, but it was an accounting anomaly, they say. Florida spent almost $160 million. LSU about $158 million. Auburn over $152.5. Kentucky $150. Tennessee about $144. I mean, these numbers, I don't know if we'll see them again.
We won't, Dave. And what we for sure should never see again, we'll never see that kind of income again, and we're not going to see that kind of spending and the outgoing again. But let's at least not have it be almost directly proportional. Let's bring in $200 million, and instead of spending $199 million,
right,
let's try only spending $179 million.
There you go.
And socking some away.
Bingo.
And it was never the threat. It was never going down. It was going to be rights fees, and we might have you might have some NCAA trouble that would scare the alums and scare the fan base. But we never, and who could have factored in this? Nope, nobody could have. But you should have been at least on the warning side of, all right, we made 200. Let's don't spend 199.
It used to be. I always thought that there was a sense among the Power 5 schools that were raking in the money that we got to spend it so that we get it again next year. We don't want anybody taking our money. So we're going to spend that thing. And now maybe this will awaken people to say we have really got to have a significant rainy day fund for whatever may come along. And that could include
almost
your own academic side having their own issues.
And have an endowment for just sports. Build that rainy day fund and the disaster fund, and instead of just every penny they got their hands on had to spend it and felt like they had to keep up with everybody else. You've got to keep rolling like that. But those days are over. You're gonna see far different practices going forward.
I agree with you. Apparently, I haven't had a chance to look at it. The Washington Post has written a scathing story about Redskins owner Daniel Snyder and misconduct.
It's been teased for days, and I think some of that has been inappropriate from media people in and around the D.C. area. A big story coming, coming. Don't tell me it's coming. Give me the story, and then on the day that it's out there, then you can tweet big story on the way. But I think Daniel Snyder will lose the ownership of Washington. I think the league will pull a Donald Sterling with him and get him completely out. There are some really hideous accusations. He gets a chance to defend himself, but I don't know how much love he's got in that ownership room, and he's done just such a horrible job with them. The name of the team notwithstanding, and his belligerence on that front hadn't helped him either. But yesterday, the longtime radio voice resigned, and he is embroiled in some of the accusations as well.
Well, you would think, honestly, the first, in my mind, that pops up is that if Daniel Snyder is forced to sell, the guy that was the one that was most prominent, the real mover and shaker in getting the Redskins name changed, was a Memphian named Fred Smith, who has 10%.
I hope he gets it.
And it is,
But who wants it.
My understanding that Fred actually has several times tried to buy out Daniel Snyder, and obviously that wasn't the case. I'm sure there's many people who want it. Who's the one that comes to your mind?
There's one in Washington that owns the Washington Post, Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, well, but already we know that there is a relationship between the NFL and Fred Smith. So, we'll see how that one
he's been great
all
to the NFL.
All plays out. There's no question about that. So that could have a lot of ramifications if indeed there is enough pressure that is put on
Snyder's days are numbered owning Washington NFL team.
That's 2 hours in the books. When we come back, candid conversation with the athletic director of the University of Memphis, Laird Veach, on these trying times. I'll let you know this portion of the show is brought to you by Conway. Conway Services, heating, cooling, plumbing, electric, and, of course, the latest in technology when it comes to water heaters. That's the tankless. It never runs out of hot water. You save money because it only heats the water you use, and you never have to worry about your tank bursting because there is no tank. Most 10-year-old water heaters were about 65% efficient when they were new. When they get old, they're even less. A tankless never gets less than 98% efficient. And right now, John's got it so low, $79 a month, or he'll take $300 to take that old tank water heater off of your hands. He'll give you the $300. And you always get that great service. Over 8,000 five-star reviews on Google about Conway. 384-3511. Get the new technology. Get it through Conway. 384-3511. The athletic director of the U of M is next on Sports Time.
Hi, folks. Jeff Jackson, General Manager at Sunrise Collierville. Thinking about a new or used car or truck and not sure where to get the most for your money? Think no more. Sunrise Collierville's 31st annual tent sale is going on now. With the largest selection of vehicles in the Mid-South to choose from and factory rebates up to $8,000 and discounts up to $10,000. Bad credit, bankruptcy, slow pay, it's okay. Here at Sunrise, we specialize in secondary financing. If you got a job, you're approved at Sunrise Collierville. The #1 Chevrolet Buick GMC dealership in the Mid-South. The home of the guaranteed credit approval. See us online at sunrisecollierville.com.
Hey, it's me, your cousin, from Boston. I'm on the radio doing ads for Sam Adams. Now I'll be known as the Sam Adams guy instead of the dude who fell in the quarry. Sam Adams Boston Lager is crisp and refreshing, which is why I bring a six-pack wherever I go, except the movies anymore. Sam Adams, from Boston with love. Here's the legal part. Watch how fast I can read. The Boston Beer Company, Boston, Mass. Drink responsibly. Now, is that 30 seconds? Are we even close?
Jay Farner here, CEO of Rocket Mortgage. Making the right financial decisions has never been more important. When you turn to Rocket Mortgage, we can help guide you to those right decisions now, when they matter most. Mortgage rates are near historic lows, so now is a great time to call 8338-ROCKET. And if you need some extra money, a cash-out refinance could give you that financial boost you're looking for. Call today at 8338-ROCKET or go to rocketmortgage.com to learn more.
Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states and MLS number 3030.
We started Untuck It to create the perfect untucked shirts. Along the way, we had other great ideas, like super comfortable polos that come out of the dryer looking crisp, wrinkle-free, and always at that just right length. Choose from our traditional PK, easy wrinkle-free, and performance styles that wick moisture, so even when it's hot in the shade, you'll feel cool and dry in an Untuck It polo. Try our famous polos now at untuckit.com or any of our 85-plus stores. Untuck It, shirts designed to be worn untucked.
Looking for a high-efficiency planting solution? The Case IH 2150 Early Riser Planter combines the industry's most accurate planter technologies with a rugged row unit for a fast and uniform emergence. The Case IH 2150 Early Riser operates at your speed and adapts to unique field conditions so that you can maximize your yield potential. Stop in or call Mid-South Ag Equipment at 662-890-3141 to learn more. That's Mid-South Ag, your Case IH Equipment headquarters.
We are Sports 56 WHBQ Memphis, WIVG-FM Tunica Memphis, and WPG-FLP Memphis, Flynn Broadcasting Stations. Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Waldo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
Laird Beach, the athletics director of the University of Memphis, our guest. He's ready to join us after I tell you about DeSoto Auto Sales, the title sponsor of this hour. They are at 5704 Goodman Road. Go online and check out all the very happy and pleased referrals at DeSotoAutoSales.com. All the cars test driven, checked out head to toe, bumper to bumper, unlimited inventory, every make, every model. And if they don't have the car you want on the lot, they will quickly go out and find it for you. No shortcuts at DeSoto Auto Sales. You walk in, treated like family, kind, courteous employees, laid-back atmosphere, no high-pressure sales. But they do care about your time, and they want you to enjoy the ultimate car experience because they know we're living in a world today that time matters. You walk in within 45 minutes, find the car you want, test drive it, credit approved, paperwork completed, and you're gone in time to do it over your lunch hour or immediately after work. At 5704 Goodman Road, DeSoto Auto Sales, 662-890-7184. Come on down to DeSoto County for that town and country experience at DeSoto Auto Sales.
We We will start our third hour with a guest that came in, and I was teasing him yesterday or the day before when we talked, and I said, when you came in, everything was really going good. Number one recruiting class in hoops. Football team was top 25 on their way to win a championship, and then, of course, our world changed on March the 11th, and Laird and I were together in Fort Worth, Texas, when the world changed. How are you doing? How is your family, Laird? Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks, gentlemen. I appreciate it. Family is good, and Dave, just please don't try to blame me for all the changes and the direction that things went.
No, sir. We're not going to play the blame game, Laird. You've done an outstanding job. But this was not in the prototype in the athletics director guidebook, was it?
No, yeah. As many people have said, as it relates to our world right now on so many fronts, there's no manual for this. So you just you need to have good people around you and just keep talking and working your way through it, trying to do the best thing we can each day.
We were just talking, and I went over the operating expenses of these SEC schools, and A&M, $212 million operating expenses in 2018-19. And I think that the industry as a whole will have to reevaluate when we get back to normalcy. We will. There will be a virus. It'll come hopefully sooner than later. But when we do, will we ever get back to where we were, or will we be wiser about the way we do things?
I do think there'll be a lot of opportunities to grow and improve out of this. But, that's the silver lining in crisis is many times on the backside, it sort of forces you to step back, rethink, be it maybe more efficient, more, intelligent with how we operate. That doesn't mean we will correct all of our challenges, but at the same time, I do think there's a real chance to reset on different fronts and not only the financial piece, but maybe some operational pieces. And, that is one of the things I think many of us are sort of looking forward to is, it is not college athletics is not a perfect world. And, we do, all recognize within it that there's many ways we can improve and get better. And, maybe this will allow us that chance when it could have been difficult to get those kind of changes otherwise.
Laird, what are city and county medical officials telling you about opening day against Arkansas State, a much anticipated game? What premise are you working under right now?
Well, I will tell you that as of we speak today, we're still operating on the premise that is what we're planning on. I think, although we all recognize that landscape looks like it's changing daily, and so much of that depends in terms of just that day and opening up that day. Depends on, things much beyond, local. I mean, it's a conference, it's a regional, it's a national kind of discussion that you're seeing play out, across the country in different ways. So, whether that happens on that date or not is still, obviously, to be determined. I will tell you that, I have tried to remain and kind of just by nature an eternal optimist. So, throughout this whole process, been optimistic. It's getting harder and harder to remain optimistic. There's a lot of things that are starting to trend and make you feel like it's pushing back or pushing differently. And we'll have to see how things progress. As far as the local, health department folks, they've been great. We've had a lot of good dialogue. Our staff has really been proactive. Jeff Crane and, Daryl, a lot of our people on our team have put together some really good plans based on input and things we're seeing from, counterparts across the country, conference, NCAA, others, to, have really good protocols in place. And we've had a lot of good back and forth dialogue. Now, how that plays out in the end is going to largely depend on how the virus continues to trend, right? There's so many factors here that are beyond our control, but we're doing everything we can to prepare and be ready.
That Shelby County Health Department you referred to is going to make a decision as to, I'm guessing, a percentage of people who will be allowed in to watch at AutoZone Park, 901 FC. They participated in a game in Birmingham last night, and there was a small percentage of fans that were allowed in to watch. if we're looking at just sheer numbers, because let's be honest, you're not going to get the $55 million the Big Ten got or the $45 million per team television money that the SEC got. I guess you're getting about $4.5 to $5 million when all is said and done. What kind of numbers do you really have to have allowed to come into the Liberty Bowl where fiscally you guys can survive playing football?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, the financial piece is of this is certainly a big factor, and we've tried to continue to focus on. In the end, we're here for student athlete opportunities and to get these young people to play competitions, and that is first priority. But the impacts financially are really important because it affects scholarships and salaries and people's lives and our ability to operate. So that's a very real concern. Up until this point, we've really been focusing on a model that would, as we've communicated, allow us to hopefully take care of our season ticket holders, right? And they've been loyal to us; they're the first ones there, and if we can hold on to that, which it just depends on where those final numbers end up. It could be something different for 901 FC to hear shortly, and it could be something different for us here by early September or October or whenever we're playing ball games. So, we're continuing to work through that with them. But if we can hold on to those season ticket revenues, which is, roughly anywhere between 15 and 20,000 season tickets, but of paid season ticket holders, we can get in that 15,000 range, it's somewhere into that ballpark. Call it the low teens, then we would be in an opportunity where we can survive. We can work through it and manage it. If it gets much more beyond that, then we're going to have to start taking measures that are different than what we're currently budgeting for and planning.
Would you continue a season if the health department says we can't have people there? You're allowed to play the games, but no fans.
We really haven't got to the point where we've truly entertained that yet. I think so much of that, again, would be a decision that would need to be beyond, just the University of Memphis. I mean, we have partnerships and obligations with our conference counterparts and others. It's hard for me to imagine, frankly, having ball games without having fans. I mean, this seems such a critical kind of core part of it. Obviously, there's the financial component, but and it's also the safety component that if it's not safe for fans, is it safe for student athletes? And that would have to be the first thing that you'd have to check and make sure of. And if we could get that type of reassurance, and we felt really good about our protocols, and all the medical experts are telling us, hey, yeah, we can do this, and the players feel good about it, then I suppose that's possible. But it's certainly hard to imagine at this point.
Laird, if the prospect of fanless or even limited number of fans happen for men's basketball, has there been any thought or any preparation with fanless or limited fans to maybe having the home games on campus, since it would be more intimate, but also might be less expensive and a little more a little better for your ticket buyers?
I would say there's that's been something that's been mentioned. Although I would tell you there's a lot of ideas and things that have been mentioned and sort of discussed on the periphery here, over the last few months in a lot of levels in a lot of different ways. I would also say that candidly there has not been enough conversation yet about winter sports, basketball in particular, and how we would manage that. Of course, we looked at it from a budgetary standpoint and sort of the projections that we had to make, which are under the assumption that we could have some level of fans, but a social distance configuration. And again, kind of like what we talked about with football, could we take care of a certain number of folks and accommodate them? Now, beyond that, if it gets to other scenarios where we are in a position where we just can't have fans, would we entertain those kind of things? I think we got to look at all options. So that is something that's been mentioned as an idea.
We do know that the September 12th game at Purdue has been canceled, and I guess you've got a dilemma here, because that was a $750,000 payday at a time that you guys need money. I'm sure you're probably in the midst of negotiations, so we're not trying to pry too much, but would you have the ability to say, you know what? You don't have to pay us the $750, but give us a home game. Make it a home and home. Or would you say we really want the money now? Don't wait 6 years to make it up because we've got an issue now. How do you deal with something like that?
Well, there's all kinds of ways to deal with something like that. And first of all, I would say that the Mike Bobinski, the AD at Purdue, is a good man, a friend that I've known for quite a while, and he communicated about as well as he possibly could in that scenario. Not many hours before everybody else found out, but at least we kind of got to have a little quick conversation or two. And I'm confident they'll be reasonable and thoughtful in their approach with it. And I know we will be. But in the end, those dollars, particularly right now, are really important, right? I mean, I'm not going to shy away from that. We all are, really, clawing for resources to pay the bills. So, but in the end, that'll be a conversation that, like you said, that'll be negotiated out, and it'll be, I'm sure there'll be all kinds of, attorney opinions on both sides, and we'll let that process play out, and it's going to have to play out. And again, although everybody has their own contracts in these individual game contracts between schools, so much of it, I think, is also going to play out on a conference and national perspective, because we're certainly not the only ones in this position with the Big Ten, Pac-12, others that may, been making those moves when they have.
Has the American had any conversation at all about conference only or keeping that September 5th game with Arkansas State non-conference games? Have you guys entered into those waters yet?
Well, I will tell you, we've had a lot of conversations about a lot of things. We talk on a weekly basis as ADs, senior women's administrators, the conference office. I'm serving on the executive group now for the American athletic director. So we talk on a very regular basis. There's a lot of things being considered and discussed. And as of right now, we're still holding on to the thought that we're going to try to play every game we can, and keep it on schedule as long as we can, understanding that that may need to change. So I will share with you an analogy that I used yesterday with all of our head coaches. I got them on a call just to sort of talk through this and sort of where I see it as of now, and I was trying to figure out a way to explain it. So as I shared with them, I kind of look at this like, everybody's kind of building their different models, and if you looked at it like they were all floodgates, we're at the first floodgate right now, and there's a lot of pressure against it, and right now that floodgate for us in the American is maintaining our schedule as we have it and as we see it now. But the next, if that floodgate breaks because of pressure of the virus or or what other conferences are doing nationally and just our inability to manage it, then the next one may be moving to conference only scheduling or conference only plus one or two, or and then the next floodgate after that could be pushing him back, to a later start date, and then the next one after that may be a smaller conference schedules. Maybe you play a smaller conference schedule later in the fall, and then the next one becomes spring. And I think it's just going to continue. We're all going to kind of build these models and build these gates, and then when the pressure mounts, you move to the next one. And there's every real possibility that it could be the floodgates open and it crashes through 3 or 4 of them at once, and you end up at the later scenario. And to me, that it helps me to kind of think it through that way, because I don't think we can look at expecting while everybody's talking about by the end of July, right? By the end of this month, we need to have answers, at least in terms of the next step, because we got student athletes that are coming back for camps, and we've got to communicate with fans and put plans together. And I do think we'll get a lot more clarity at that point, but it may not be final clarity, right? And that's the hard part, is everybody wants final answers. And, but we got to give ourselves every chance we can to learn more about the virus and put ourselves in the best position to have ball games with fans and make this work, right? So we're going to have to continue to be flexible and build those models.
what are some of the public health numbers that you and your lieutenants and the conference, Commissioner Resco, the health officials in Shelby County, what are some of the public health numbers? Is it cases? Is it fatalities? Is it comorbidity? What are the numbers you're looking at? Kind of give our listeners a peek at the scoreboard that you're watching, that if they came down, we could possibly play.
Yeah. You know what? I have really tried hard not to play doctor, because I am not a medical expert. So in the end, as opposed to us saying, okay, what are those sort of benchmarks we need to get to, we got to turn to the medical professionals and say, you tell us. I mean, what you hear them talking about is the trend lines have to change from where they're at, right? I mean, we got to get in a healthier, better place with this battle, or it's going to be really, really difficult. So, now exactly the benchmarks or things I wouldn't speculate, because, for one, I could easily be wrong. And for another, I'm really not, I don't have the expertise to do it. So those are the kind of things we need to rely on those folks that tell us. And that's what they're here for. And that's why we got to partner with them, because, we're college administrators, and we're trying to, react to the situation as well as we can and be as proactive as we can. But in the end, it's going to be, what do the medical professionals tell us they're safe?
I know Commissioner Oresco released today some of the protocols that will take place for when the games start. There will be one test. I believe it's like Thursday for a Saturday game. I think it's 72 hours before the game takes place. But you've had players that reported for the football team. I believe it was June 6th. So they've been there 5-6 weeks now. And I'm not asking for, sort of any kind of you releasing any public information here, but to the best of my knowledge, you have not had any outbreak of COVID from those kids, those young men, since they arrived 5 or 6 weeks ago. So we can see, at least at this point, that these guys can live together and work out together without incident. So that part is working. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, I think we feel good. I think we feel good about, first of all, a lot of it comes down to how your coaches manage things, the culture around your program, what kind of discipline you have. Are they listening and willing to go the extra mile to be smart and stay safe? I think we feel good about our protocols and the system we've put in place and how it's being managed. In the end, we're all subject to, young people making, potentially young people decisions, particularly outside of our of our campus, facilities. And we feel really good about what we control, and then you just continue to work with your young people and help they make good decisions so we don't have those kind of outbreaks. But it's going to happen everywhere in some way, shape, or form, and in different ways and different numbers. That's just the world we're living in now. But I do feel really good to date about how things have progressed.
As we get closer and closer, I'm sure you're going to let folks know, but is there any words of advice as we wind this interview down that you can give fans? I know you've already announced a 14% decrease in budget, but you're hoping, I'm sure, for an increase in donations. What would you tell fans that really care about your Tigers? They're all thrilled about the news yesterday with Musa Cisse. We've got the number 33 recruiting football class in the country. That is the best recruiting class this school has ever had. We're the defending champions in the American. So I know there's still this love affair going on. What would you tell your fans right now?
I appreciate you saying that and asking the question. In the end, if you step back and look, we continue to be, kind of like you referenced at the beginning of the conversation, at a really special sort of period in Memphis athletics. We've got an incredible amount to be optimistic about and feel good about, and I am confident that on the backside of all of this, that we can surface and continue that momentum and feel really good about it, and possibly get even smarter and better from it. But we got to get through this time period, and there is every bit the possibility that we have real challenges with not being able to have fans or having reduced capacity. And as we've told people before, the number one thing they can do is renew their season tickets, renew their Tiger Scholarship Fund donations, and then if we get in a position where we can't fully accommodate people, we're going to need to ask people to consider to donate those dollars back and to continue to support us in that way, because, we need to pay the bills, and we need to manage through this in a way that's not going to have long-term sort of devastating impacts to all the great momentum of things we have going. We have a lot to be excited about, and we just can't let this slow us down long term. And I believe that our people are passionate and they care, and they'll see that. But we could very well be in a point here in a few weeks where we're asking folks, hey, just please help us through this. So we're hoping people will be willing to step up and do that like they have in the past.
I hope it's where you could say in a few weeks, we've turned the corner a little bit. We're going to get some folks in. We're going to have a season. But honestly, if we're being totally frank, none of us know this at this point. As you said, you keep planning, but fluidity is the key, because we don't know.
You got to be flexible. You got to, and that's what, where you're seeing a lot of these conferences go to conference-only scheduling. I mean, that's really what it's about. It's maintaining enough control where you can be flexible and adjust. And, we'll do what we got to do. And, you're right. I sure hope things, as a society, we start making a little more wise decisions, and, people are wearing their masks and, staying socially distanced and washing our hands and doing the things we can, so we can, for a lot of reasons, and for the safety and health of people, but also so we can play ball games. I think
that's right.
It'd be a lot of fun to get back to it. So.
That's the simplest contribution you can make. Doesn't cost you anything. Just do the social distancing, wear your mask, wash your hands. That's all we're asking.
Absolutely.
Laird, thank you so much. We'll talk to you as we get closer and closer. Anytime you want to be on to spread your message, you're a welcome guest here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye. That is the athletic director of the University of Memphis. That is Laird Veach. He's brought to you in part by the commissary, the Germantown commissary, both of them. Collierville commissary, Germantown commissary, pick up tonight, real easy. You can take out so easily at Houston, Levy, and Poplar. That's the new Collierville store. You've been there before. It's huge, by the way. You can go in. They got outside seating. If that's what you prefer, they've got a great patio. It's got a roof over it, too, so it's probably cooled down a little bit since the skies have clouded over. They make it easy. You can still get your ribs. You could still get your chicken. You could still get your tamales. You could still get your icebox lemon pie or your banana pudding, and you can do the same thing taking out at the Germantown commissary. The old little quaint area in Germantown, they are still taking out there. You can even call in advance, give them your credit card. They'll bring it right out to you. The commissary, both Germantown and Collierville, still going strong. Back in a minute, we're going to talk a little bit of baseball with our baseball expert. That would be Tim Doolin, and he is next.
R&R on Sports, Saturday mornings, 10 a.m., Sports 56, 87.7, and 96.1. Don't miss us.
Good news. Southland Casino is now back open. That's right. The most spacious casino floor in the Mid-South is ready to welcome you back to the action with live blackjack, roulette, craps, and all your favorite slots. The action kicks off every day at 9 a.m. and rolls all the way till 5 o'clock the next morning. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead and make the short drive to Southland. We're ready for you. Must be 21 plus. Play responsibly. For help quitting, call 800-522-4700.
Blood and plasma donations are more important than ever. People all around the world still depend on the medicine your plasma helps make. That's why Interstate Blood Bank and Plasma Biological Services are open and will remain open for our donors. The United States government has declared blood and plasma donation as a critical infrastructure industry. That means healthy donors are allowed to travel to and from donation centers regardless of any stay-at-home mandates in your area. We need you to keep donating so that we can continue to manufacture these life-saving medicines. We understand that you may be concerned about COVID-19. The health and safety of our donors and our employees remain a top priority. To limit the spread of the virus, we're taking additional measures to ensure our centers are safe and clean. Donating now is more important than ever, but please do not come to the center to donate if you are not feeling well or have a sore throat, fever, cough, or shortness of breath. We are doing our part so that you can do yours. Come donate today at one of our IBBI or PBS locations across the Memphis area.
I Buy Houses, 901-406-1101. That's 901-406-1101. I Buy Houses. I Buy Houses will buy a house in any area, in any condition, and yes, it's guaranteed to close in 5 days. If you need to sell your home quickly, call 901-406-1101. If you've been through a divorce, if you lost your job, if you're tired of renters, I Buy Houses can get you your money quickly. I Buy Houses will buy your home in Shelby County, DeSoto County, Memphis, Bartlett, South Haven, Horn Lake, Olive Branch, anywhere and everywhere in between in any condition. And yes, they're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I Buy Houses, 901-406-1101. That's 901-406-1101. Grab that pen, 901-406-1101. I Buy Houses.
At First Bank Mortgage, their core purpose is to help you get to a better place. That better place may be a lower monthly payment, that vacation you thought was impossible, or getting into a home with a fenced backyard where your kids can play. To get into your better place, First Bank Mortgage makes decisions right here at home. Dedicated to helping you get to your better place, First Bank Mortgage. Call Daniel Mooney at 901-462-0145 today. NMLS 741022. Equal housing lender.
Napa know-how. At Napa, we've stopped thinking outside the box. Instead, we're thinking inside the bucket. The $2.99 Napa bucket to be exact. When you fill those bad boys with auto parts, you can get 20% off 3 or more items that fit inside. No overthinking required. Just get your bucket, fill it up, and save 20%. Quality parts, helpful people. That's Napa know-how. Napa know-how. At participating Napa Auto Parts stores, exclusions apply. May not be combined with other offers. Offer ends 7/31/20.
Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Waldo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
Welcome back in, halfway through our final hour. Always sweet to talk baseball with our friend Tim Doolin. Looking forward to that. Speaking of sweet, this portion of the show is brought to you by the good folks at Dinstall's. Well, this week's summer sizzler is pecan brittle, a delicious brittle made with butter, brown sugar, crisp pecan. If you go butter and brown sugar, and you're using the finest like Dinstall's, how can you go wrong? And then with their recipes, oh my God. This is so rich and perfect for traveling in the summer heat. And beginning today through next Wednesday at a very special price. Also, chocolate-covered blackberries, fresh blackberries dipped in the fondant that they have in the strawberries and then enrobed in milk chocolate. Ooh, that's a summer delicacy that won't last long. You like blackberries, you got to try them this way. Chocolate-covered strawberries, only about 5 more weeks. Get them while they last. Grapes and pineapple also available. You can stop by Laurelwood, Germantown, Collierville, or Pleasant View. Pick up your favorite treats for the weekend. Get that absolutely great pecan brittle as your summer sizzler special. Dinstall's making sweet traditions for over 118 years. Well, Tim Doolin, I asked you, would there be an agreement finally with the players and the commissioner and the owners? And you said, yes, there would be. You were right. So now I'm going to ask you, a week from now, will we see the Nationals and the Yankees in the very first – I think that's the very first baseball game. I know the Cubs are playing the Brewers. Will we have baseball in a week?
Oh, I think so. I think there's no question now we're going to have baseball.
Dodgers and Giants that night.
Me and Stats predicted it from day one. Didn't we, Stats?
I got a little squishy a time or two, Tim.
I don't think you were exactly gung-ho on that one.
I'm squishy right now. Dodgers and Giants, the late game a week from tonight. And right now, Dodger Stadium, famed Chavez Ravine, that gigantic parking lot, you ought to see the traffic jam on it. It's one of the largest testing sites in Southern California. I just don't see how, Tim, next Wednesday, hey, all you testers, get out of here. Virus is over. We got to play baseball here.
Well, there are not going to be any fans, so the parking lot's not an issue.
That's true.
That's true, but the players have to have access to it. And do you want that much congestion around the ballpark? And if these droplets carry, like the medical experts say, do you want them that close to the ball players?
Well, I talked to Mookie the other day, and it's very. He did say it's very organized and very regimented on how they're getting there. I think Major League Baseball has done as much of an amicable job as you could possibly do to protect everybody. I think one of the biggest issues is not so much Los Angeles, is they still don't know what they're going to do about the Blue Jays.
Right.
That's a big
Because Canada has not given them their okay. But here's the plan that I heard on that is that if the Canadian government says we're not going to open up Rogers Field, we're not letting people come across the border, we're not for that, they would play in Buffalo.
Well, I played in that stadium. I mean, it's a nice stadium, but it's in the heart of downtown, much like AutoZone Park is. So.
But it doesn't matter because there's no fans going to be in.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying, I'm sure they're working on all the contingency plans they possibly can. And but
Tim,
however, I mean, none of this is going to be easy. I do think they're going to be playing, though.
We're going to do baseball picks next Wednesday or Thursday, and I think as a serious pick, I know everybody's going Yankees, Dodgers. I love the Padres, and in this short sprint, I could see a World Series of Padres Rays.
Whoa! Wow.
Well, here's what I would say. I think there's a chance that there's going to be one or two young, laden teams get in because the players are playing for something. I think you're going to also see, teams that have veteran players that come 30 games into this thing are going to be out of the race. They're going to pull the infamous hamstring, and we called it pulling the chute, but you're going to be seeing guys drop out like flies. I can assure you that.
Are you worried about 11 umpires opting out?
No, not really. Not really. I mean, that doesn't bother me. I don't think that bothers the players that much.
Well, they will when the strike zone is not correct or missed calls
Inconsistent.
on routine plays.
Well,
we got the replay for everything, but balls and strikes being called. I mean, that's all the umpires really do now, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some validity to that. I guess I agree with all of that. I know the Cubs were talking about at some point later in the year that there could be fans. Do you ever see that occurring?
I did. I mean, we're going to have some really good luck with all this stuff and making a turn for the better. But I think there's an outside chance come closer to playoff times look, they're doing it in NASCAR. They had 20,000 fans spread out.
Yeah, but I started thinking about this. They were allowing 30,000 and only 20,000 showed up. It starts to make me wonder. It's a little like I was shocked when the first initial numbers came down that parents were given a choice: would they send their kids to school or would they learn virtually? And 77%. This was late last week, 77% said they were going to do it virtually. They weren't going to send their kids to school. Now, that may have changed since then. And by the way, we should correct something. Late yesterday, the TSSAA, or Shelby County schools, changed their philosophy. It was going to be where if you were going to compete in sports, you had to send your kid to school. Now they're saying if you virtually learn, you will still be able to compete in sports. So they changed their minds about that. But my point is, I'm not sure how many fans are going to show up to these things.
No, I don't doubt that in the least. I think you're going to see a lot of things like that happen. It's just crazy. I mean, it's like I'm in Atlanta. We're going to be playing in a huge tournament with over 200 teams spread out all throughout Atlanta. Now, typically, this particular event would have 380 teams, but because they have to play at satellite high schools or whatever, and a lot of the high schools are private schools, whatever, they've opted to say, no, you're not playing here. However, there's not much social distancing at these youth tournaments.
Right.
I can assure you. And people are getting the COVID. So it's
anyway. I just wish we could get some signal, some message from on high medically of what we have to get numbers to and by when. I mean, when we talk about, the end of July, the end of July is 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's who we're going to have to get some answers for sure. But we know the baseball answers. A week from yesterday, I guess, is the first pitch.
Week from today.
A week from today? Okay. A week from today. I for one, can't wait. I mean, there will be baseball. There's going to be so much stuff going on. It'll be hard to keep up. And I relish that particular thought. I just hope we get to that starting gate.
Well, I do too. But I do think we're going to. I really do. And I'm interested to see how all the networks handle the games. Are they going to be exciting? What's going to be different? You know, piping in music, is that going to be beneficial to the energy of the player?
Camera angles. You're not going to have people in the stands, so be very flexible with camera angles and even a roving camera person, because there's not going to be anybody in the stands. You could have a fixed camera squarely behind home plate now, where scouts usually sit.
Yeah,
that'll be wild. Can you imagine that? The guy can go wherever he wants to. There's no usher going to stop him from going where he wants to go.
There's no usher.
Yeah.
We talked about this last week. Well, you were playing golf at Miramichi, I guess. But anyway, why wouldn't they allow fans to sit in the skybox in all the suites? I mean, they're not close to the players.
You know what? I suspect if they put in social distancing, they could do that. But then you would get complaints that only the elites that had all the money could watch the games, and that's not fair.
And liability.
Yeah, and liability. Of course, you can sign waivers, legal waivers that you would hope would hold up in court.
Well, they might hold up, but it doesn't prevent people from suing you.
So, who do you think is going to really take advantage of this 60-game season?
I do think that a guy like you mentioned the Rays that have experimented before with the starting pitching with relievers. Right. I think teams like that. I think a team like Joe Madden's team with the Angels. He's very creative. Mickey Callaway, a Memphis native, is very smart. He knows pitching as good as anybody. I think there's going to be some team outside of our box that is going to surprise everybody. And for me, that's exciting.
I kind of think that's cool too. Do you think that whatever that is, which could be, you just don't ever have any starting pitcher and nobody ever goes more than 2 innings. Do you think whatever comes out of this could stick and change the game forever? We know it's going to be. No. I'm pretty sure it's going to be universal DH from here on out.
Yeah, I don't think so, because we're talking about a unique year. We're talking about 60 games versus 150. I think there'll be some takeaways from it. That I can assure you, all the front offices with the MIT grads are going to pick it to pieces and come up with something creative to try to change the game, but I don't foresee anything crazy happening.
Here's what I think they'll do, Tim. I think somebody will judge it for the last 60 games going forward, the last 2-month sprint, kind of take this as a test case that you could mix and match, and especially when you can expand rosters. But I think that's getting ready to be changed too in the new CBA going forward on September call-ups. But I don't think you would do it from day one, but I think you could see it in a 60 game window.
No, I think you're spot on the stats. I really do. Again, the uniqueness of what we're going through will hopefully never happen again. But we're going to see some things, and we're going to have some good talks over the next couple of months.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be great. What wins the batting title? What batting average wins the batting title in each division, in each league?
Somebody's going to hit 400. 402 will win.
Somebody could hit 400. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What wins the ERA battle? I mean, does somebody go out there and have a 0.60 ERA?
I don't know if it's going to be that low, but it could be. It could be sub 1. Could.
You're talking about 10 starts maybe for a frontline guy.
No question.
When George Brett hit, what was it, 389?
Mm-hmm.
The highest since Ted Williams. When George Brett hit 389, what was his batting average after 60 games?
Well, that's a good question, and it's hard to compare it like that. But if you said 60 games, or even the last 60 games, obviously the last the back half is going to be much tougher for a hitter because of Brian. But,
I think he was over 400 the first 60 games.
You're gonna see some guys that we've never talked about putting up monster numbers. That's what I think.
Give me a guy.
What do they do at arbitration?
Who do you think is a guy that we aren't really thinking about, but you've got him in your mind that's going to be really taking advantage of this?
Oh gosh,
got to be a young guy, right?
I mean, do what?
Acuna.
It's got to be.
Acuna could hit 450.
Let me just say. Let me just tell you. Think about this. I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to be him because I don't think it will be, but it could be someone like an Austin Riley who came up last year and tore it up for a month and a half.
Yeah, sure did.
Well, you're talking a month and a half. That's 45 games.
They don't have time to figure you out.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. There's going to be some young guys that haven't been in the league that are going to break into the league, get off to a really hot start, and think they belong and going to ride this thing.
And Tim, like with Bo Hart, they finally realized quit throwing Bo Hart fastballs.
Yeah, right. No doubt.
Because he was smoking them.
Mm-hmm.
What about a pitcher?
Oh, man. I mean, I think you could see a pitcher like a veteran pitcher, that could, DeGrom, guys like that could just, Verlander, they get on a roll. Scherzer. I mean, that guy's tough as nails. It goes back to this, and I talked to Mookie about this yesterday, is these guys, the guys that are going to have the success are going to be the ones that are so mentally tough that they're going to be able to get through all of the stuff. No fans, no music, no loudness, everyday life versus the big league life. The guys that can navigate through that and get off to a good start are going to be the ones that have the most success. And I think it's going to be great for us to watch and to talk about.
I do too. Just to have a few different angles.
Fingers crossed. Please, nothing go wrong in the next week.
That we get to next
Boy, it'd be crushing.
Thursday. Yeah.
No, it would
crushing. I mean, it'll be about the white flag for me.
I know.
Well,
I hear you.
Let's hope that is not the case. You don't have to throw up the white flag, that we've got something. Look, we've had golf, we've had NASCAR, we've had fights, and it really does look like the NBA is going to make it. Their bubble has held up. The one thing I'm a little worried about, you mentioned that they've got really good protocol, but they're not in a bubble with baseball. So they are in contact with their families. They are in contact with folks outside of their realm. And so this will be the toughest test of all the tests we've seen so far, I think.
Oh, there's no doubt. It is going to be the toughest test. And then I think it's going to be the next toughest test is going to be trying to figure out how the NFL is going to pull it off.
And they're all watching it. They're all pulling for baseball.
They sure are.
I mean, please get it right, baseball.
Yeah, please get it right.
Well, you better take care of yourself in Atlanta. You got 300 baseball teams, and I've seen video of tournaments that were down in Mississippi, of tournaments that were at Fisher Steel Road, and I know this for a fact. There is no social distancing going on. And there wasn't masks going on then either. Now it's legal. You got to wear a mask, right?
Yeah. Well, you got to wear a mask. Now, I will tell you, I mean, you've seen it in Memphis, too. You're having to wear a mask entering in. They're not making them enter these complexes with masks on.
Yeah, you know what I'm going to find interesting is Didi Gregorius says he's going to wear a face mask during the games because he's got a kidney condition.
Well, guys, think about this. And Didi's obviously worn a mask in October for the Yankees, and a lot of guys do. A lot of the Latin players, they can't stand to be cold, so they've worn masks, covering their face all the way down their neck, whatever. So, I'll be honest with you, I feel so claustrophobic. I'm wearing it when I'm supposed to, but I don't like it.
I'm with you. I don't love it, but I'm wearing it, and I'm
hear you.
committed to it. All right, my friend.
All right.
We thank you much. Please be safe in Atlanta. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Yes, that is our man on baseball, Tim Doolin. He's brought to you in part by Homer Skelton Hyundai in Olive Branch with a limited lifetime powertrain warranty on all of their new vehicles. And even some of the certified pre-owned vehicles, you can go up to 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Auto Trader is named Hyundai Best Non-Luxury Certified Pre-Owned Program. And they only have the best. Ray Melton is over that at Homer Skelton Hyundai. The 2021 models have started to arrive. The Hyundai Tucson, #1 compact SUV. The Veloster ranked the #1 2020 compact sporty car for initial quality. This is all J.D. Power that is saying this. It is really something. Then, if you throw in my guys, Chris True and all his gang have been together forever, they make this the standard for the way car business should be done. All you've got to do is get on Lamar. That's Highway 78 Mississippi. The very first exit is Craft Road. You turn left, and you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll thank me later. Just head to Homer Skelton Hyundai. Back in just a minute. Crunch time is right around the corner.
Take Sports 56 with you on your phone or tablet. Download our official Sports 56 app today.
We started Untuckit to create the perfect untucked shirts. Along the way, we had other great ideas, like super comfortable polos that come out of the dryer looking crisp, wrinkle-free, and always at that just right length. Choose from our traditional PK, easy wrinkle-free, and performance styles that wick moisture, so even when it's hot in the shade, you'll feel cool and dry in an Untuckit polo. Try our famous polos now at untuckit.com or any of our 85-plus stores. Untuckit, shirts designed to be worn untucked.
At Fisher Investments, we do things differently, and other money managers don't understand why.
Because our way works great for us.
But it may not work for your clients. That's why Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, obligated to put clients first. It's the highest standard for a financial advisor.
So, what do you provide? Cookie-cutter portfolios like the rest of us?
No cookie-cutter portfolios here. Fisher Investments tailors portfolios to meet each client's goals and needs.
But you do sell investments that earn you high commissions, right? And make commissions when you make trades for your clients?
No, Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission investment products, and we never earn commissions on trades.
So what's in it for you?
Fisher Investments fees are structured so we do better when our clients do better. When it comes to helping clients achieve a comfortable retirement, we're clearly different. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
Hey clones, you've heard me talk about Walmart delivery before, but now Walmart has the fastest delivery service yet. Walmart Express Delivery. Get groceries and more delivered from their door to yours with no contact delivery in 2 hours or less. Zero markups. Same low price as in-store. Don't let work, kids, an at-home workout, or whatever else life throws at you right now get in the way of getting what you need when you need it. Try Walmart Express Delivery today. Restrictions and fees do apply.
Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Waldo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Relosian and Brad Norsworthy.
Come on, Muhammad, we hit fame. We beat you with the deal, we get insane.
Final portion of this Thursday is brought to you by the Butcher Shop. A reminder tomorrow, it is Hamburger Friday. You can do it inside, you can take out. Hamburger Friday is the best ever. They take that chop steak, they literally will, in the morning, grind up the steak. You get the freshest hamburger ever that you've ever put in your mouth. You'll love it. Don't forget the weekend Sunday brunch they have. There are so many reasons why I would tell you all you got to do is get to the Agri Center, Walnut Grove and Germantown Road, and you will have a great, great meal, inside or outside. And don't forget tomorrow, it is Hamburger Friday. It is time right now for Crunch Time.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
This is Geraldo. It is Crunch Time.
You are looking live in your life that
you seen anything like that?
Take questions again for the student athletes at this time, please.
What's happening, big dog? How you doing?
Is this thing working? It's obviously crunch time.
Hammer, nail, coffin. This baby is over.
Woo! Woo! Time for Taco Bell Crunch Time. Taco Bell, home of the crispy tortilla chips, topped with a double portion of either seasoned beef or shredded chicken, plus refried beans, nacho cheese sauce, reduced fat sour cream, guacamole, and a 3-cheese blend. Nachos Bel Grande, heaping portion of chips, topped with ground beef, tomatoes, beans, nacho cheese sauce, and a dollop of sour cream. Taco Bell, home to great food you get on your way home real fast, and they bring you crunch time every day. The Organization of College Basketball Coaches, the NABC, the National Association of Basketball Coaches, they want the SAT and the ACT requirement nixed. And here's the quote from their group, that both of those tests represent long-standing forces of institutional racism. End of quote. Or I'm paraphrasing it.
Yeah.
I'm for the elimination of it. If you can get into school otherwise, then fine. Let them play. Honestly, unless they're doing enough to stay eligible, I don't care about their academics.
Well, I can tell you they waived the SAT, ACT prerequisite this year because of the pandemic. I have been told for years and years and years there is a cultural bias within that test. I think if you're going to have a requirement of testing, then get a test that is really fair to everyone, that takes into account all different cultures and go from there. I just learned that the NBA, we were talking about the bubble, they have put out a new letter of reminding players about protocol, about wearing masks and dressing appropriately when they get their room service. Yeah. I also learned today you can hit a ball 423 yards like Bryson DeChambeau, but you could still be over par like he is 1 over par. I learned you could hit a 180-degree wedge like Dustin Johnson, and you'd be way over par. 8 over par, in fact, today. Tony Finau is on top of the leaderboard at the Memorial. He shot a 6 under 66 today. By the way, Tiger Woods in his first tournament back, birdied 2 of the first 3 holes, ended up 1 under after the first round.
Could have done without today in baseball, not just the virus-related absences, but now we're seeing more, surprisingly, or no surprise, baseball injuries, hamstrings, injured arms, injured shoulders, things that are happening. These lineups and rosters and the roster moves will be quite different this year. In-game will be some chessboard for these guys. Never mind the universal DH. These rosters and these games, they're going to look goofy because it is goofy.
Well, you know what, and I could see the injuries because you're really not getting a true spring training, right? You're doing little inter-squad games now. In a week from now, you are not going to be sort of in the shape, even though these guys are pretty well in shape 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 30, the whole gamut. It is a little different when you get into competition, and I could see us seeing more injuries. I could have done without today's cancellation of the Cooper Young Fest. Canceled today, next date given, September 2021.
Keeping a close eye tonight on all things Tigers. Tiger Woods, 4 birdies, 3 bogeys a day. It's Thursday. It's early in the week for him, but he didn't look that rusty. At times he really looked very, very fluid and agile. It was a different day, though, with the wind. Also, we'll keep an eye tonight on baseball. If it pulls the plug now, it'll be like scrubbing an Apollo launch. It'll be so disappointing because the countdown clock, it's on. It sounds very rancorous in Dallas between Jerry Jones and Dak Prescott.
It does.
If they loved him, they'd have signed him. I
agree. You know what? I think Jerry said, prove to me you're as good as you think you are. And we certainly will see. We want to thank Rick Schaefer, Keith Smith down in Orlando. Russell Copeland, it was great catching up with him. Good insight today from Laird Veach and Tim Doolin. Tomorrow, can't wait, we've got Bruce Marshall, Drew Hill from the Daily Memphian on the NBA. He'll join us. Thomas Harding from MLB.com. He'll come your way at 4:30. Andy Schiffman and the always popular Heck Yes, Hell No. That will be our Friday show. That'll do it for us. Thank you for joining us. Go have a great night, everybody.